Hello there, friends. Hello, thank you for joining me on this fine Sunday for a little bit of Westeros talk. We are going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the Aegon's Conquest movie. It's now a movie, for sure. We're going to talk about House of the Dragon Season 3, some specific character stuff, questions about who we will see on the show this year. We're going to talk about some Joramun Horn follow-up stuff. Some of you guys have some questions. There were several questions that a lot of people had, so we'll address those. The Mammoth Horn controversy. And we are going to talk about water magic in A Song of Ice and Fire, which is a fun topic. Little Rhaenyra, little Cranog men, little alley rivers looking in a pond, you know, seeing the future. So, under the sea, in the puddle, I know, oh. And let's welcome to my study. Here we are. Oh, Estella Graves, you're atop the high tower with me in the next room over. Thanks for coming. How's it going? How was the elevator?
It was good. It was strange, but we're here, so.
Yeah, those guys, they turn the wheel as evenly as they can, but sometimes it has a little hiccup, so.
Yeah, so.
Long way up.
I have Eileen here with me. She wants to say hi. So she's very upset that I picked her up. But
her eyes match your dress, though. The dress brings
do.
out the color of your cat's eyes.
It does. So I'm here as the Witch of the Rainwood, the Green Queen, which we'll get into. We're talking about some water magic stuff today, which will be really fun. So looking forward to that.
There you go. If you're not interested in the Witch Queen of the Rainwood, then this may be the wrong. You may have stumbled into a strange corner of the internet. Eject. No, welcome, you guys. Thanks for coming. And, of course, you guys know Estella Graves, but if you're not subscribed to her channel, you should do that. And you can just click on her name in the description below and subscribe to her videos. She is firing off videos for House of the Dragon this year, as well as A Song of Ice and Fire lore and things. And you did a cool trailer breakdown / not just a trailer breakdown. Don't want to sell it short. There was some nice Season 3 thoughts. And so we'll follow up on some of that. And just so you guys know, when I have a guest on for this talk show format, I kind of go, hey, what's on your mind lately? What do you want to talk about? And let them bring a segment too. So then we end up with a nice little mix. And it's giving Sarah from Labyrinth. You did a Labyrinth reel on Insta this week, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I had a cold and I rewatched that movie because it's my favorite. And I was like, you know what? I think I could do this makeup. I think I could figure it out. So here we are.
Nice. And thank you, mods. Welcome, mods. Welcome, YouTube channel member squishers. Many names that I recognize. And there'll be plenty of time for you to get in your own questions too in the chat. You can use a super chat or you can tag me. Super chat obviously will highlight your question. Guarantee it gets answered. If you at me, there's a decent chance I might see it, or I might be pontificating and being distracted. But we appreciate you, and we will have a couple questions for the chat that I will turn loose, some open-ended stuff, and let's bring them in. I'm talking about the chat. We can't see it. There it is. There's stuff. We have a chat. We have notes.
Great.
It's a whole thing. So, all right, and so where do we want to start? I think we want to start with let's actually talk about King Viserys and the idea that might be him. I want to talk about this first. We will get to all this other Ice and Fire stuff, but I'm freaking out over the idea that they've left him to rot. There are some questions about whether I'm right about this, and there are some challenges here. So the obvious problems with the head that Rhaenyra is looking at, she's mortified. Like, the look on her face, I think, is a big clue. Whatever she's looking at has to be horrifying on a level that is more horrifying than like everything that's come before for her, just based on that look.
Oh, for sure. And I've seen some people saying, "Oh, is this Jace?" But then I've seen people saying, "Why would she only have the head, and why would it be this far decayed?" I do think it is Viserys. I think that makes the most sense. I think it's a nice little nod to the book, obviously with the idea that they just left him to rot. And it's just, man, is it such a just gross memoriam for Viserys as a character. It's just such an ill omen, just such a you know, his legacy is that they left him to rot, and now Rhaenyra is just gonna have to burn all his furniture. Like it makes the taking of King's Landing extra bittersweet, I think, in that way of like you got everything you wanted, but not only are you losing children, also like your father and what he stood for, the legacy, the memory of him wasn't even respected. Like I think it would make for such delicious TV drama that I really hope that's what it is.
That was the main part of my thinking. We'll address the logistics in a second, but it was just like, yeah, that's what would be horrifying to that level, to her. And I actually did a poor job in my video about it. I did it really quick, and I just said it was a bad omen. I didn't really talk about what it meant, even though that was ostensibly the purpose of the video. I watched it back. It was like, duh. But I did record it on the spot. But yeah, it's like, oh, how are we caring for the Targaryen legacy, right? You know, what is Viserys' legacy? He kind of tried to paper over a bunch of rot, a bunch of building tension and corruption that he didn't address. And that was the whole point of the metaphor of his disease, essentially.
Yeah, and it makes that line from Otto that we got in season 2 read even stranger when he's talking to Aegon. He says, "Oh, don't you think of your father and his, forbearance and all these things," like reminiscing. And I'm like, and it would just be so crazy if it's like, yeah, and we just left him in the other room and he's rotting there right now. Like we were like using him as this like, Otto's using him in this moment as this like pillar to kind of chastise Aegon with, and it's like, but we didn't even respect him enough to give him a proper burial. He's just in the other room right now because we're too busy, you know.
And it can't be the same bedroom. Obviously, we've seen Aegon in Viserys' old bedroom. So this wouldn't be the same bedroom. He's not, people are like, Aegon was there right next to his rotting dad? That can't be, like, no, obviously not. It must be some other bedroom but it would make sense if they took the remnants of the broken city, which Aegon did smash. If they took the remnants of it and shoved it in a closet, like a spare bedroom somewhere, and the body's in there too. So that must be the room that they're in. You can't tell really. The background's very fuzzy. What I did figure out by watching it again and again and again is that when they're burning the furniture, that is in the courtyard of the Red Keep. That's where that is. That's not inside the bedroom. That's definitely in the courtyard. You can see some like braziers and some courtyard stuff, like an awning or something like that in the background. So that makes sense. That's where you would burn Viserys, is like in the yard. So
you would, and if you did it kind of in the courtyard of the Red Keep, you could keep it kind of personal as opposed to doing it publicly, because I'm sure they don't want to let everyone know, hey, by the way, the last king was so disrespected that we didn't burn him properly right then and there. Like, this seems like this might be a little bit of a secret hush-hush funeral almost, because it's kind of politically what it needs to be at this point.
Yeah. I don't think it's part of a dream sequence. I think that's... Every time we look at a preview and we think something's a dream sequence, it's not. Like Dunk looking at the skull, that wasn't a dream sequence. That was just the burned out remnants of the puppet show that he was looking at the next day. So I don't think it's a dream sequence. It doesn't look like that to me. It looks like they're finding his corpse. And like you said, Estella, in the books, they do this as well. The body is left for a week. So people are asking how much time has elapsed. It's hard to say. The show wiki doesn't say like, how long it's been or anything like that. Probably like a couple weeks, Yeah. It's not like 2 months. So.
No. And I think it lines up with the timeline of, they left him to rot for a few weeks. And so, with that, the question isn't really answered in the book, I don't believe, of did they ever do anything with him? And so it kind of follows through on that.
Yeah, and basically, my friend with Maynard James Plum, he was like, it's just a lot of people deciding it wasn't their job to deal with it. And it's just nobody did. A lot of the things going on in their defense, but only a little bit. You gotta lay the king to rest. They didn't do that. And it's a symbol. It's a symbol just like people cutting themselves on the Iron Throne. That's why I brought that up in the video too. I'm curious, Estella, do you think they will show Rhaenyra cutting herself on the throne? I
hope so, because we got so much of Viserys cutting himself on the throne in season 1. And we have that scene of her, I'm pretty sure it's her boots walking in blood. And I think it would be fun. However, I like the idea in the books of like, sometimes you just cut yourself on the throne because it's sharp. I think, didn't Robert say like maybe she was just gripping it too hard? She was just holding on to the throne too hard?
I can't remember, but that does sound like a Robert thing to say.
Yeah, he's like, no, everyone can cut themselves on the throne all the time. It's a pointy throne, and then people running with that and taking it as an omen. I kind of like the idea that it's just a thing that people cut themselves on. But I am a little worried that it's going to get interpreted into a kind of mystical omen in the same way that we're constantly getting, oh, the every time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin. It's going to become the new thing of like, anytime a ruler is cut by the throne, it means they're a bad ruler. Like, I don't know, but I do think she'll probably get cut.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I don't. It just doesn't seem. It didn't seem like propaganda when I read the story to me. Again, because of it just goes along with the dragon pit being burned on her watch and stuff like that. And there's lots of symbols kind of across the board for both teams, and that's why I think they've like played up this idea of letting the old king rot, because it fits right into the narrative of all of these people and how they're being bad custodians of the land and all that stuff. So I tend to think it probably will. But like I said, it's really the dragon pit is and just the general debacle of the attempt to rule is the bigger thing. So I think it would be funny if there's just some crazy fungus that lives on the Iron Throne and people are cutting it and they think it's bad luck, and it's just like somebody just needs to disinfect it and clean it.
They're just getting tetanus. It's just really nasty magical tetanus.
Magical
They're
tetanus.
just
We've got, yeah,
yeah.
grayscale is like magical bubonic plague, sort of. So, I mean, why not?
And I mean, we'll be getting into that when we talk about water magic and the grayscale. So maybe the Iron Throne has a similar thing going on where it's a little bit magically cursed and, taking all these swords through Conquest, taking them from the Riverlands where it's marshy and gross and,
Hey, look,
never
George is a
cleaning it.
gardener. So maybe it's not what he was thinking of originally, but maybe after post COVID, he could gardener this in. They need Lysol. That's what it is. Not a witch. We need Lysol.
Yeah, I guess dragon fire can't burn away the germs.
Yeah, no, actually, no. Yeah, it can. It definitely would. Um,
You'd think.
yeah, it would have to be post creation of the throne. It wouldn't be from the blood on the swords. Yeah,
I'm just
it's a good
imagining
point.
now,
Yeah,
just someone like with the long game in mind, just rubbing like gross cloths on the
Lares.
throat of
He's
like,
got the foot
yeah,
thing going on. He's
Lares.
the fungus master already. So
Yeah,
this fits.
yeah.
Or maybe mushroom, hence the name. Okay, so we've destroyed our viewing audience. Hey, 300 people. Thanks for watching, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Click like and subscribe,
Yes.
etc., etc. It's Westeros talk. These are the things we want to know.
Is there fungus on the throne?
Is there a crazy cursed fungus, and where did it come from? Could be a Sathorii fungi
Yep.
from the Isle of
Could
Toads,
be
maybe.
could be from the Rainwood. We get mention of a lot of different lichens, a lot of different mushrooms in that forest. This gray area had a really lovely theory a couple years ago that Alice Rivers is the Green Witch of the Rainwood. So it's coming full circle.
Let's
So
just talk about this. You've mentioned, I don't even think people know. Somebody came in late and asked about your cosplay. Who is this Green Queen of the Rainwood?
yeah, so she's just barely mentioned by name, which is my favorite character. I love a gulp shitto that's mentioned once and then just has nothing to do with anything ever again. She is a woods witch in the Rainwood, which is in the Stormlands. It's this kind of like Pacific Northwest style rainforest. She rules over the Rainwood for a time, I believe, during the Age of Heroes, and then is eventually killed and disposed of. But it's interesting because we then get mentions of the Rainwood in some of the unreleased Winds of Winter chapters with like Arianne. We get mentions of these caves that have these kind of underground rivers, and she discovers some weird kind of Children of the Forest drawing, marking things, which feels very akin to the scene we got in, what is it, season 7 of Game of Thrones with Jon showing Dany in the cave, like, look, the Children of the Forest made these cave drawings. So I think it's an interesting thing for George to bring up now, and it makes me wonder if it will be important later on, the idea of these kind of underground rivers. When you kind of look more into the river, it's like got these blind fish in it, which the other mentionings of blind fish we get are in a shy. So we also get mentionings of obviously Bloodraven and his Weirwood cave. There's these underground rivers there. I've seen some fun theories of, do these rivers connect? Is this gonna come up again? So I think all of it's just kind of fun, and it's fun to have this witchy green queen that seems kind of children of the forest, kind of antler men style in the Stormlands.
Well, that does sound like a lot of fun. Where's Lionel Baratheon's feasting tent when we need it?
Yes.
Now, there's also a Green King of the God's Eye, who similarly, it's just like one sentence in the world of Ice and Fire. We have no idea when, Age of Heroes, 500 years ago, no idea. But I think it's George trying to show us this faint legacy of the Green Men. Okay, so in the early couple of books, Bran talks about the Isle of Faces, the Green Men a lot. And then as the story goes on, we get into other things, and we kind of haven't heard about them for a while. But it seems like the conclusion is going to involve the Isle of Faces to some degree. Not saying it's all going to climax there, but I think George has said in an interview, we're going to see the Isle of Faces or Bran's going to see it, one or the other. I think maybe it's just we. But I think he's just setting it up. He's giving us more green men in Fire and Blood in the world of Ice and Fire, just to kind of imply that it's like there is this legacy. This is an ancient legacy of the First Men. When he started off, it was more about the Children of the Forest, I think, and the Pact. Mm-hmm. But it just seems like there's more green men as time goes on. And this is what I'm really curious about, to bring it back to House of the Dragon, is what are they going to do? And this is a spoilers all stream, by the way. What are they going to do with Adam Velaryon, who supposedly visits the God's Eye while he is rounding up an entirely new army of Riverlanders, including the Tullys, who had been holding out in the war until that point, and then shows up for Second Tumbleton to save the day, I guess, kind of. They've shown us more Isle of Faces on House of the Dragon than what's in Fire and Blood already. So it would seem like they're going to do something with that plot, whether it's Adam Velaryon or somebody else. Like, somebody's going to fly a dragon to the Isle of Faces, and when they do, what's going to happen? This is one of the things I am most excited to see.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of possibilities, and they've definitely teased it. Last season we got that weird little antlerman guy, and Daemon just being like, what is that? And Alice being not fazed at all. She's like, yeah, these are my homies. We hang out all the time. This is just what we do here. We just have antler men running around.
Well, did he disappear into the tree, or did he what happened? Where'd he go?
Yeah, he just kind of disappeared, just like a little, kind of sylvan, cloven-hooved goat guy just disappearing into the tree. And then, with water, bodies of water, obviously the God's Eye Lake is, the Isle of Faces is this island with all these weirwood trees just right in the middle of the lake. And it says if you get too close to the isle, birds start attacking you, ravens, and it's like, with all the roots of the trees, is this water a bit magically charged? Is it warded in a way where the ravens are trying to keep you away from the island? I think with Adam going there, kind of flying over with the dragon, I think it would be really interesting to see, like, if the dragon has any resistance to going there, in the same way that we, got resistance to the dragons crossing the wall. It would be interesting to see if he does go there, if he has any type of, like, psychic trip moment, maybe not eating weirwood paste, maybe drinking some teas or something from these people, getting some prophecies, some visions, because it seems clear that in the book he gets some knowledge that is important. And I think it would be remiss to not include that with what they've kind of teased so far. It would just feel like a lot of build up to nothing.
Yeah. And it seems like the real build up here is the larger recent interaction between the Old Gods and the Targaryens, with Bloodraven, even Aegon the Unworthy, taking Bloodraven's mother as a paramour, and then going on with the Ghost of the High Heart, and potentially Rhaegar and Lyanna going to the Isle of Faces, the Ghost of the High Heart's prophecy about the prince that was promised. Like, it's pretty clear whoever's the Old Gods, the Green Seer Hive Mind, whoever, the Green Men, they've got their eye on this prophecy. They understand that it's important. And that makes sense, right? Like, their main concern is the White Walker threat or the health of the Weirwoods or whatever that is. And clearly the dragons have some role to play in balancing the scales with the White Walkers. So it makes sense that the Old Gods are concerned with them. But it's just, we have no idea what the intent, what the relationship is like there. just that there is some sort of intent. And so, yeah, what are the Green Men and the Old Gods doing to influence this war? What is Alice Rivers really in the books? Is she a Green Seer and thus an agent of the Old Gods, or is she just a Woods Witch? You know, I'm curious to see what House of the Dragon reveals about that. But of course, that may or may not be exactly the same as what's in the books. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, I mean, in the trailer, we got obviously Aemond in Harrenhal, and I think you see like a brief glimpse of like some weirwood looking tapestries. So I would also be curious to see if he as well, you know, they've really not shown us any Alice Aemond interactions. I think they're purposefully not showing us that because it's going to be a very interesting relationship in how they choose to portray it. Um, and we touched on this a little bit just earlier when we were talking, but I think it's so interesting that Helena last season told Aemond that she saw him, you know, swallowed up by the God's Eye. And then for him to hear that and then choose to go to Harrenhal anyways, it makes me think either one, he doesn't believe her, which I don't really think that's it, or two, he thinks he can change fate. Like he thinks that, well, I'm going to go there and kill whatever it is first before it can get me. I'm chasing prophecy in that way that is so George R. R. Martin of like, I'm either going to chase it to try to change it, but it's just going to make it come true in the end. And so I'll be curious to see how Alice plays into that.
that does seem to sort of fit his personality. Like, I'm going to go and kill the thing that's going to kill me. That is one of the reactions that people have to prophecy in stories like this. Is like, oh, they either try to avoid it or they like try to take it on directly. It doesn't matter if you're in a story and there's a bad prophecy about you, like you're probably screwed in general. But that does make sense. It could be that, you know, some people keep those kind of things in the maybe pile. I think like Ned, for example, is kind of skeptical on stuff, but like obviously Rhaegar and Lyanna were up to something. So like, yeah, when the White Walkers show up again, well, I don't want to get lost in what does Ned think about the White Walker. Go ahead.
But he does have that moment where he's like, wait a minute, one of the wolves saved one of my kids and I killed Sansa's wolf. So he is a little, like you're saying, skeptical about magic, prophecies, omens. He's not stupid. So I'm hoping Aemond, I mean, I think he's kind of the same where I don't think he's stupid, but I think he's a character that is just feels like he has been jilted his whole life and he's really trying to fit a square into a round hole, you know, a square peg. He's really trying to fight against the world in a way that I don't know if anyone here has watched Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's a scene where there's a character and he's on a mountain and he's just screaming at the sky to come strike him with lightning. He's like, come get me. He's like, you've never held back before. And it kind of feels like this is Aemon's moment of going to Harrenhal and being like, well, I'm here, try to kill me. Like, I'm gonna get you first, Daemon, or whoever, you know.
I could see that. I could also see it being like, you know, he's kind of not sure about it, and then the events force him. He's like, he needs to go there, he thinks, and so he's like, oh, I just have to do it, you know. So he's feeling dragged into something, kind of like if you think of going back to Ned, they got this clear omen of the stag and the wolf killing each other, and it's like, oh, should you partner up with your stag friend Robert Baratheon? Maybe not, and he's like, oh, I just kind of have to do it, and Kat's like, oh, we have to do it, and so they both drag themselves into it, even though the omens are bad. Same thing with the Red Wedding. So it is a moment that George likes to create. We could see something with that. Couple good questions in Super Chats I'll get real quick here. This person tagged me, will we get a scene where Rhaenyra realizes her actual husband, Laenor, died, which is why Sea Smoke was claimed? No, we ain't got time for that. Unless you disagree?
I think we kind of already got that. There's that really brief moment in season 2 where Mazarya says, maybe he's lonely, because they're like, oh, that's, you know, my late husband's dragon. He's been acting weird lately. And I think that moment was her, because she kind of looks like she has like a moment of clarity there where I think she realizes, oh man, he actually probably has died somewhere across the Narrow Sea now. I think that's the most we're going to get, unfortunately.
There you go. Somebody in the chat thinks you're giving Moraine Wheel of Time vibes. I can't disagree. You look a little nicer. Moraine's kind of... She's always wears blue, doesn't she, too? Yeah, I think she wears blue. It's blue with
I feel like that's a series I need to watch. I've heard a lot about it. I feel like I should get into it.
So I've read the whole thing back in the day. I only watched the first season.
Should I read it?
Yeah.
Read it as opposed to watching it?
Oh, I'm not saying you have to read it. No, it's very long. It's very long. There's some good stuff in there. There's some parts that are tedious. I wouldn't use the word need. It's foundational, and there's lots of good stuff in there. So it is a good read mostly. There's a couple books that are a little tough. I think you could really tell the author at the period of his life where he was getting, he was dealing with sickness and stuff. Like the books got a little grim. They got kind of a dark tone, the last couple that he wrote. Anyway, super chats. I can just do it like this. Is the Isle of Faces like a national park? IDK, why no one tried to tactically take the island in a series with constant wars, especially if they don't believe in Snarks and Grumpkins. Well, it doesn't really give you much of a tactical advantage. It's just an island in the middle of a lake. And, there's a pretty flat land to the west of the lake that everyone's marching through and having battles, and then the King's Road's on the east side. So there's just not really a reason. Tactically, you want to occupy choke points to bottle people up, in a valley or on one side of the ridge or things like that. So the Isle of Faces doesn't really accomplish that. And I think it's just really spooky, and it's kind of like, why would you? It's not that, it's not that people are dead certain of what's there, but it's like there's enough of a spook factor to just be like, I don't think I'm going to do that today, really. Why would I? So.
And it's interesting because when preparing for this live, I was just writing down a ton of water magic stuff of like beings, places, things, just anything connected. And obviously we know in Bravos there is the Isle of the Gods, which is like a little island in the middle of their kind of, lagoon canals that has all these different temples to the gods and things. And I thought it was interesting that there is a black canal that connects the temples of Samash and Soloso, which are brother gods. Like it just feels like a bit of a not a reference to the Isle of Faces, but it's just interesting that we have multiple mentionings of places in the world that are like an isle that is a holy, sacred, godlike little island in the middle of some type of a lagoon thing.
Such as the Isle of Lang, from whence the Green Men may have come. Check out Secret Origins of the Green Men, Isle of Lang, for that particular tinfoil. But yes, it is. I do think Bravos is a giant weirwood net symbol. I did a stream with Sean, Hero of the Thousand Voices, symbolism of Bravos, and it definitely seemed like, or was that Eldrick Stoneskin? I think that one was Sean. One of these fine gentlemen. But in any case, I've done a lot of streams. Yes, all the canals, that's the idea of the Green Sea, the weirwood network as a watery parallel, a watery version of it. So it's the network of canals. You die, the dead are often thrown in there, that kind of thing. And then Sam going in and coming out is a rebirth symbol, similar to him coming back through the Black Gate at the Night Fort, things like that.
Yeah, and we get so many just mentionings across the series of kind of underground riverways or channels and connections to underground cities, underwater cities. We get that with Bravos, with the drowned parts of Bravos, obviously with Valyria, with places like Nefer, which is also called the Secret City, and most of it's hidden underground. And so I don't necessarily think it's, it's not kind of tying into someone in a future book is going to discover a secret underwater city. I think what it is more kind of symbolically hinting towards is the idea of the weirwood and the weirwood net being these kind of oceans and rivers of time, and there being just like complete societies, complete timelines, things going on there as like a parallel almost universe, in that fun sci-fi way that George loves.
Well, I do have a theory about Mira and Bran using the underground river to get back to the Night Fort from Bloodraven's cavern.
I was thinking of that as well. I was seeing a lot of people talk about, these underwater caverns. Is that going to come up? Because it's weird for it to come up with that in that Arianne chapter. It's weird for Leaf to mention it to Bran. And there's like supposed to be a secret way under the wall. And so I could totally see that being their route is through these kind of spooky rivers that not even the children really like.
Yeah, that's Gendalin Gorn's way, and it was Eldrick Stoneskin on the Bravo stream, so shout out Eldrick Stoneskin. Wasn't going to bring it up since we're talking about the area. Was Caraxes robbed? Discuss all the ways the answers. He was he was very heavily invested, Rudy, in our dragon tournament, and he was upset that the Craxes was robbed in the he didn't win in the final round. So, I mean, look, Craxes got his man. You know, he got Nana Vagar in the end. I mean, he drug her down into the lakes. So Craxes is all right.
After that stream, my partner was asking me if Stormcloud was going to be a relevant dragon that we were going to meet. He was like, "So is that one, like, people really liked that one? Is that one going to be one that we're really seeing?" And that made me laugh quite a bit. So.
Well, so I mean, that just while we're talking about it, Aegon and Viserys, Rhaenyra and Daemon's kids are younger for no apparent reason. They are younger on the show. So are they going to do the Aegon Stormcloud thing?
I mean, I think they showed us Stormcloud, and Stormcloud looked tiny. So unless they somehow make that dragon bigger real quick,
We
I don't know
sprinkled
how
some
this is gonna work.
chia grow.
He's
some
gonna
chia
be
pet.
holding its little feet while it's flying. Like, he's not gonna be able to get on the top of that dragon.
Yeah, you're
you know?
right. You're right. The dragon is even a bigger problem than him being too young. It's the dragon being too small.
He was like the size of a cat.
What about Viserys? What's Viserys' dragon? Oh, he doesn't have one, does he?
I don't think so.
No.
I think they just sent them to the Vale with Stormcloud, the one small dragon, and some eggs.
Maybe maybe Rhaena and Sheepstealer are gonna swoop in and rescue him.
Could be, but I think that would I think what might happen is Rhaena not being there to protect the young ones, I think might cause some tension between her and Rhaenyra. She's gonna be like, "Oh, you were off trying to claim your own dragon when I sent you there to watch the boys and be the mother to them I couldn't be."
Well, so let's keep going with that question. What are they going to do with Rhaena and Sheepstealer? Obviously, Nettles is no more, and we're not happy about that. But what are they going to do with Rhaena? I mean, obviously, they're going to put her with Daemon at some point. That is an obvious thing to, like, that part of the replacement makes sense. That's really the only part that does make sense. Obviously, she wouldn't be Daemon's lover. She's Daemon's kid. But, like, she was the one who didn't get attention from him because her sister had a dragon and she didn't. So if she rides a dragon with her dad, like, this will be cathartic. But how's she going to get there? It's not impossible that she could show up at the Gullet.
She could show up at the Gullet. What if Sheepstealer attacks Jace? That would be crazy.
You guys, my chat is just chaotic, man. They just want chaos.
I think we do need to have some type of a moment, though, right, where Daemon eventually sides with Nettles over Rhaenyra, right? That's what happens.
Yes.
So
correct.
there's going to need to be a reason for Rhaenyra to be angry with Rhaena.
Well, she could just be angry with Daemon for something else.
Yeah.
But in the books, yeah, Mysaria is essentially rumor mongering and being like, "Oh yeah, he's already cheating on you," you know. So we will see. Gray Area thinks that it was Sheepstealer there's a couple of frames near the beginning of Dragons Flying. One's definitely Rhaenyra and Syrax. The other one's harder to see. It's a dragon flying over a mountain. Gray thought that was Sheepstealer. The wings do look a little pointed like Sheepstealer's. It's hard to see with the resolution.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was Syrax or not, but I had some people pointing out in my comments that they think it's Sheepstealer as well, which would be cool. It would, because I always was just so sad we never got Laena claiming Vagar. So I think it would be kind of fun to see Rhaena claiming Sheepstealer. You know, just if we're not getting Nettles, at least give us a cool dragon flight scene or something.
Yeah, they said they didn't do the Laena claiming Vagar thing because they wanted to play up Aemond claiming Vagar. I'd show all the kids claiming the dragons, man. This is good stuff.
Yeah, because you could play it very differently, and I don't think one necessarily takes away from the other. I think that just gets into the issues of speed running that first season. I think if we had more time to breathe with those characters and see them, and then maybe we have Aemond claiming Vagar in the second season, it wouldn't feel so back-to-back, and it wouldn't feel like one is taking away from the other. But alas, we could talk all day about what they could have and should have done.
I just feel like the more never-ending story vibes we can get, the better. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Story. All right. We went on a little tour there. That was good. I feel like we wove through a couple different topics skillfully.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do. So just to finish up, is it Viserys' head? I guess where we didn't finish with that conversation really. So obviously it would be a different room. Viserys was wrapped. He was wrapped in a golden shroud. So the question is, why would he be unwrapped? Well, they wouldn't be sure that it's definitely Viserys without unwrapping it because they're not the ones that wrapped it. I mean, maybe they could talk to the Silent Sisters who did it or whatever, but like they might unwrap it just so that Rhaenyra can like look on the face of the dead and come to terms with it. So it might not even be like this shock. It's more just like she hasn't had a chance to grieve or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the taking of King's Landing, it could definitely be like, hey, we opened a door to a small room and we found something and we think you should check it out. And sure enough, she's like, oh my gosh, I never expected to see her find this, you know.
There is a funk coming from door number
There's a
three.
funk. And it gives a little bit like, you know, Tyrion after the Battle of Blackwater just being shoved in a tiny little unceremonious room. Like it is really just giving like history will not respect you, we will not remember you, just shove dead Viserys in a corner somewhere. This will never get written about, it's fine. We'll deal with it later. And then I think the reality of that and coming upon that is sad and horrific, and I think very tragic and humanizing. So
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to point out is like we never saw Viserys after he was wrapped in the shroud. We haven't seen him in season 2. They never had a funeral for him. They never burned him. So he's there somewhere, and this is another reason why I think that's got to be his corpse. So the only real problem is the idea that it would be in the same room, but it doesn't have to be in the same room. All the Red Keep rooms are going to look somewhat similar, and we don't get a good look at the room. So I don't really think there's an issue there. Hey, Grey Waste Tim, how's it going? I guess your concert just let out. Grey Waste Tim wanted me to convey, or at least I wanted to convey to you on behalf of Tim, that he's been having a good old time at his 3-day rock and roll concert that he's been going to. So y'all be happy for Uncle Tim. He is rocking and rolling, maybe moshing, maybe throwing some bows in the pit. And,
kicking some feet, kicking some shins.
Absolutely. I think that's what they do in the pit there. So, yeah, Tim's having a good time, and he'll be back sometime soon. He's waiting on the train home. It's the trains only come once an hour, he told me yesterday, so he's got some time. We're happy to have you in the chat. As someone asked what your opinion was, Tim, on the skull. So let me know if you think that's Viserys or you think it's something else. It doesn't make sense that it would be Jace unless they totally changed his death because he dies in the water, you know. And I don't think that skull looked burned so much as it did rotted. Hard to say exactly, but there's no black, really.
Yeah.
So, and yes, the people like the jacket. I liked it too. That's why I was excited when I saw it. I was like, it has dragons. I will purchase that, even though it's slightly over the top. I can wear it on YouTube. That's what I said to myself. So here we are.
It's fun.
Here we are. And let's see, what other questions are there? The woman giving birth. She is I've dubbed her the new Hands of White Fire Lady, because she could be anyone.
Mm-hmm.
She could be, maybe she's Melora Hightower. No.
I was looking, it sounds so weird to say. I was looking at her teeth. I was zooming real close in on her teeth to try to figure out if it is Fia. I think it could be. I think, too, if it's not a birthing scene, maybe she's experiencing some terrible vision or something, some type of prophecy that's waking her in her sleep, and she's sweating and upset, and her handmaidens are having to comfort her. Maybe she's seeing the death of a child. Maybe she's just seeing just flashes of visions and things, you know. Could be a lot of things.
Of all the characters that could have a different reason for looking like that, she is at the top of the list. She has a different sensory experience of reality than everyone else. We have seen that over and over. So it really did, people are calling it the birthing wig. Aaron wore it, Rhaenyra has worn it, and I do think the most likely thing is that it is Helena. I feel like we should have a definitive answer by now. The teeth sleuth, the dental sleuth should be able to figure it out, but there doesn't seem to be a consensus. So you put those silver wigs on people, they just all look the same. I don't know. I do think the most likely thing is they're going back for Maelor, right?
I could see it, and I saw someone say maybe that is why Alicent fought so hard at the end of last season of like, hey, can I get me and Helena out of here? Because maybe she knows Helena's pregnant. Maybe that's the reason why. She's like, hey, at least I have my daughter and my grandkids to worry about and think about. I think it would make sense then why she kind of switches sides so harshly to be like, hey, can I please just get, you know, amnesty for me and Helena?
And it does look like Alicent and Helena are going to try to flee the Red Keep and fail. Is that your reading?
I think so. I wonder if the gates won't. I've seen some people say maybe the gates won't be open to Rhaenyra. She'll feel kind of betrayed and mad about that. And yeah, maybe Helena and Alicent will try to escape. It won't work and won't go well.
There's an answer in the chat. It is Fia. She posted the picture on her Instagram story.
I was like, she got that very small gap between her front teeth. I knew it.
Okay, there it is. The gap never lies.
Yep.
Mind the gap.
Never lies. Yeah.
So okay, so that's good. I would love to see Hugh Hammer's mother or any extra Hugh Hammer stuff. We all know I'm a Hammer stanner. But this makes more sense. So that's probably they're going back for Maelor then.
Yeah, I would love to see Sarah as well because I love a messy kind of villainous Targ. I think she's an incredibly interesting character. A lot of people really hate her, and I think that's what makes a character fun. You know, she's not a good person, not a bad person, just a really just screwed up person in all the ways. And I think it could be interesting to see how she had Hugh. What happened with that? Did she just drop him off somewhere and was like, you know, I can't do this? Like, I think there's a lot of backstory you could play up with that character, and I would like to see that.
A lot. Definitely a lot. Yeah. It's probably... So probably just have to live in our imaginations. But, sorry. I'm putting out some Freudian vibes here the chat is picking up on. It's hard to talk about a hammer in a non-sexual way. I just don't know what to say. So then we've got... okay, so that's good.
Special wig to give birth. You need a special wig to give birth. You also need a special wig to be revealed as a Targ man, because we got, you know, Rhaegar and Viserys sharing that same little bob wig. You also need a special wig to become an evil Lannister ruler, which is the Joffrey wig.
And then and you know what's the thing is the CGI dragons are expensive. You'll notice they ran out of money for Jaime's hair dye in Game of Thrones, so he stopped being blonde. I mean, you have to make choices.
And Tyrion's as well. I made a joke early on in season 1. There's a pillow that Alicent is kind of with, and Helena has a dress that is made of very similar looking pillow fabric. So they're just repurposing pillows in the Red Keep to make their gowns now.
Like, well, I got some of this fabric. Make it a throw pillow. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean says he bought 22 wigs for his brother's bachelor party, and now he is 22 times pregnant. He has 22 babies inside of him, like a spider or a fish or something.
It's like fireworms. Yeah.
Like a frog. Like the frogs that we all had to... I'm old enough.
Like
they
a frog,
made me...
and this is a wonderful segue back into water magic and Toad Isle. No, I'm just kidding. But...
we're good. I don't know if we're that good. Justice for Nettles, unforgivable cut, best character. Yes, I agree strongly that Nettles' loss, it's just cuts a huge part out of the story that we can't put back. I am a little bit, not less mad, but I am placated by the amount of class warfare talk that we got in A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, because that's kind of what Nettles is bringing to House of the Dragon, is a very specific class angle. Even more than like how did she tame the dragon thing, it's the fact that she's a dragon rider and has no Valyrian looks and how people react to that we are not getting. But we did get a lot of class war in Night of the Seven Kingdoms. So that was cool.
Yeah, it is her not having the traditional look is very much a threat to the Valyrian Targaryen supremacy stuff. They scramble to try to explain her. And I think she's left a bit ambiguous on purpose to make us as readers question, you know, what is really going on here. And I think by making her a princess, we do lose out on that quite a bit, which is why we do really need to kind of beef up the other Dragonseed characters and looking at them and the class kind of war stuff that we're getting.
So they moved that over to Hugh's plot, pretty clearly. Like, he is giving us that class window. In the books, him and Ulf are both corrupt in slightly different ways, but they're both just self-interested. And obviously the Hugh from the show is different. He's Comrade Hugh. He's a man of the people. He's got the beret, in my meme at least. And so, yeah, he's going to give us that angle. And then they send his wife to Tumbleton for safekeeping. So clearly tragedy is on the way. Radicalization is on the way. But getting back to Nettles, yes, she is. The other thing that she does by being a dragon rider that doesn't look Valyrian, that Rhaenyra doesn't approve of, is it puts the spotlight on the sort of hypocrisy around the issue of the strong kids that she is passing off as Velaryons. And everyone's like, well, they can ride a dragon. And it's like, okay, well, they don't look Valyrian, so what's important here? And then, so, yeah, it's like, well, Nettles doesn't look Valyrian. She's riding a dragon. How come that's not good enough? So it just, it creates these sort of, not a foils for each other, but different characters dealing with similar issues from different angles.
Yeah, and I think, like you were saying, it removes layers of characterization, because it would be nice to see those levels of hypocrisy in the classism, or the the tribeness of being like, well, it's my kids, so it's okay, or whatever. And I think we did get a little bit of touching on that with the dragon seeds. I mean, we saw Jace being very insecure about the idea of like, well, if they can have dragons, but Rhaenyra didn't really seem bothered by that. It seemed kind of like the opposite, actually. So
yeah, they've also they are sort of playing down the Valyrian looks as being such a big thing. Like, they all have silver hair, but they don't have purple eyes. People don't really talk about the silver hair. What we get instead is this talk of the Targaryens as being alien or monstrous in general. It's just not really hinged on the physical traits.
yeah.
And then we've got Velaryons with darker skin, which is different than in the books. So I guess Tony Teflon was saying, someone's saying in the chat, that like once we have black Velaryons, Nettles isn't as different, I guess.
Yeah, and I think part of it too that makes me sad is the idea of like, they're like, well, we can just combine these two black girl characters of like, we don't need another black girl on screen, because I think there is something important and interesting to what Rhaena is doing in the Vale in the book, of like, she's doing this more, I hate to use the term, but like soft girl politicking. She's doing the Sansa in the Vale plotline where she's shaking hands and getting alliances and doing these things. And then I do think it is thematically important that then at the end of the war, she does hatch a dragon. I think it's a bit of a symbol of like women being discounted in a way in like what they're able to do in war and in these pursuits. And I think by changing her and turning her into, a more aggressive dragon rider, I think that kind of changes fundamentally just who she is. And
if I could just cut in, that's definitely like the point of Rhaenys the queen who never was. It's like, she would have been a great queen, but we wasted that resource because she was not the right sex. So yeah,
I think you just miss out on some of those conversations and nuances by combining the two characters together. But you could argue that is what you have to do for an adaptation. But I do think it's a bit of a loss.
Yeah, and the reason why Nettles is different from all the other seeds is that she's not the son of Corlys Velaryon. She's not the bastard of Daemon or somebody. Like, I mean, some people think that, I guess, but there's not really any evidence for that. She's just a nobody. She's a poor girl from the streets who rides a dragon, and there's no other character that quite does that. So, yeah, I think she is still bringing something unique. That goes beyond just the fact that she doesn't look like, it's the fact that she doesn't look like a Valyrian and she's nobody, quote unquote,
And she
just like Rey. Rey is nobody and isn't related to Palpatine at all. Go ahead.
Yeah, and she seemingly figures out a way to tame the dragons that maybe harkens back to what the Valyrians were doing, and that kind of upends all of their stuff of like, are you guys really the only ones who can do this? Are you guys really that special? Or is this a little bit gate kept? Like, it just brings up a lot of really interesting questions that we don't get if the writer is now Targaryen. And going back to what I was saying too about Rhaena having this kind of political plot line in the books not being important, we also, I think, are missing that a little bit in general with the women. I would have liked to see Rhaenyra holding court in Dragonstone more, talking with the people on the island instead of what we got in season 2, which was a lot of her kind of fidgeting her hands and saying, "What would you have me do?" and fighting with her council. I would have liked to see a little bit more of the different roles of women in ruling in this world.
Yeah, I think that is one of the criticisms of show Rhaenyra, is like they're not really portraying a lot of political savvy, or yeah, the way that they're doing politics in general kind of falls flat for me sometimes.
Yeah, and like she doesn't even need to be. Maybe we show that she's politically not very good at ruling on Dragonstone. Maybe we show that the way she, because it would be interesting to have it paralleled of like Aegon is ruling in King's Landing. He's not doing a very good job either. Otto keeps having to tell him like, "Hey, we can't give them back their sheep. We can't do this." Then we cut to Rhaenyra and she's doing politics on Dragonstone, and it's these difficult situations that don't have a clear, yes or no answer, and it just shows that it's nitty gritty and really hard to rule. Kind of, I mean, a little bit similar to what we got with Daenerys. Once she starts ruling in Marine and is like, wait a minute, this is actually really complicated, and I don't have perfect answers all the time. I think that could have been interesting to see.
I think the best politics they'd have done with Rhaenyra is when she sort of expressed her will, and then Daemon went out and like did some stuff, and he's like, "Oh, I thought that's what you wanted, blood and cheese." And he's like, "Oh, well, I thought that's what you wanted." And she's like, "Well, that's not what I meant." And he's like, "Well, isn't it though?" And like that was a good sequence that sort of brought the crunch that these people are in. Like that's what Martin wants us to sort of feel is like, oh, how are you going to be a just ruler and not stoop to the level of committing war crimes? Because that's what people do a lot.
Yeah, I thought that interaction was honestly some of the best writing and acting in that season of, I just thought I want more of that. I miss I think some people find the politics boring. I don't. I want the nitty gritty talking in rooms, but in ways that is political and insightful, just to show us the different sides of the war.
So I think that, and just to get into the sheep stealer question, so Jaehaerys isn't sure. Okay, when the Alyssa Farman's stolen eggs turn up in Bravos, he's like, yeah, but if any chickens hatch, you better let us know. We're going to come take care of it. And when he's speaking in council, he talks about, oh, we have to figure out where those eggs are because we can't have another Valyria arising from so-and-so. Now, some people have taken that to mean that Jaehaerys isn't confident that only Valyrians can ride dragons. But I've brought up the point that like there's a lot of Valyrian people in Essos. So he could just be worried about some Lyseni with too much Valyrian blood or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, could be very much worried of, what if there's, then some Lannister that's like, I got a dragon egg, I'm gonna marry a Lyseni woman real quick. We're gonna have a kid and we're gonna see if we can make this dragon egg hatch, or like something. Like I think you're only a couple generations away in each house of. I mean, if you look at Rhaenyra and her children, I mean, I think it definitely is possible.
Yeah, and I have always come down on the side that like, George is showing us that the Valyrians are weird. They have lizard babies. It's not a total myth that only Valyrians could ride dragons, because if it was, people would have stolen dragons. Like some Valyrian slave or some other person that would have infiltrated, somebody would have found a wild dragon. Like, I really do think you have to be a lizard person to bond with the dragon, and only the Valyrians are lizard people. However, what I think is going on with Nettles is that she is, like you say, recreating how the first dragon taming would have been done. Because however the bond is forged with a dragon horn, some spell, blood sacrifice, you still need the dragon to like hold still for a minute, right? Like to begin the contact with the dragon. Even if you are a reptile person, you still need to get near the dragon. And we've seen that the dragons ate many dragon seeds. Like having Valyrian blood's not a guarantee. It just gets you in the door. It gets you an audience with the dragon who will then decide if he likes how you smell. And so by using sheep, Nettles was raising her chances and creating a bond with the dragon so that her Valyrian blood could do the job. And I do believe she has Valyrian blood because I think the whole point of the character is to show us that like the physical features don't always match what's on the inside, and to show us how people misjudge, based on that. But that's just my take.
Yeah, and the idea too of like she might have been doing her own blood sacrifices in bringing this dragon sheep. I mean, we see like Miri Mazdor sacrifice a horse. We see that like animal sacrifice in some of these religions. You look over in Essos, there are certain gods that require animal sacrifices. So it's like, is it a matter of, having some Valyrian blood, doing a certain number of blood animal sacrifices as well as other things? It just seems like she figured out whatever it was that needed to be figured out, and that was a big threat. And that's why the character, I mean, part of the reason why the character is so interesting.
And
so
the
I'll
evidence.
be curious to see what they do with Rhaena. If it's just I'm just gonna go up to you and we're cool now. Like, how, I wonder how that's gonna happen.
The best possible outcome is we just don't see her for half the season, and then we cut to her and she's totally changed. She's gone feral. She's slaughtering the black ram herself, and her riding leathers are soaked with blood as Nettles's were. And then she's totally living that lifestyle. Probably not. But to your point, that is why we think that there may be some blood sacrifice stuff going on. It's not just Nettles feeding sheep. Like, she sacrifices the largest ram in the castle before she parts with Daemon, and she is still just all covered in blood when she hops on the dragon. So it kind of makes you feel like there might be some magic going on there. But it could just be the way that people get near dangerous animals with food. Like, that's how you tame animals, with food. So yeah, and it's at least meant to be a little ambiguous, because I don't think George ever likes anything to be pinned down if he can help it. He'd rather leave it a little bit mysterious. So that doesn't mean we can't come to our likely conclusions, but
oh, for sure. And so with this in season 3, I think we'll be getting, we'll be getting female dragon riders, obviously, in Baela, Rhaena, obviously Rhaenyra. I'd be curious to see if we'll have any Helaena flying on Dreamfire. I've heard maybe some rumors about that, maybe. And with that,
it would be interesting if she was on the Isle of Faces when somebody showed up there.
Yeah, she's just conveniently also there. We got to do all of our prophecy stuff now. This is the prophecy meetup. With that, of talking about, like, women in politics, Rhaena's book plot line of politicking in the Vale, Rhaenyra politicking on Dragonstone. The other role that I would like to see that I think we've been missing a little bit is women on the ground fighting. I wanted to talk about Sabitha Frey, Black Alley a little bit. We can get into that later as well if we want, or we can talk about that now. But
we can go to that now, but I just wanted one more thing that somebody mentioned in the chat about Sheep Stealer. Could it be that Nettles didn't bond, quote unquote, with Sheep Stealer, and they're just friends because she's bringing him food? I would say no, because she fought with Sheep Stealer in the Battle of the Gullet. And I don't think you can operate a dragon in battle just on friends basis. Like, you can't really command the dragon. Like, it doesn't care about the whip or the bit or anything like that. The way that you steer, the way that you control a horse. I don't know what the word is. You ride a horse. You can't really do that with dragons. It's about the psychic bond. We've seen that. Daemon does this and the dragon puts its wing up. Daemon gets hit. The dragon screams. Dany has an O, and Balerion snorts in happiness. Like, there's a connection there. Yeah. So I think in order to ride the dragon into battle, that means Nettles did bond with Sheep Stealer, and there's really no reason to think that she didn't. So
yeah.
Also, the dragon stays with her for the rest of her life when she becomes the witch in the mountains, right?
Yeah, and it's like a rite of passage for people to go in then and see her and get burned by the dragon. And I'm like, I feel like the dragon after a while might get a little bored of that, and the fact that he stays with her shows that they probably did have a bond.
Like, look, dragon, I'm telling you, this is a good life. You should be happy. You go back to the Seven Kingdoms, I make no promises. You communicate with the horse, it decides if it wants to listen. Yeah, of course. You do have to. It's less magical, but certainly if you're going to have the horse and rider relationship is very close. I've heard that's what the Dothraki say. In any case, so let's go on to let's go ahead since we're there. Sabitha Frey, Black Alley Blackwood, and the lads. And the lads are Grover and no, it's Oscar and Grover.
Kermit.
Okay, okay, let's explain the Tully family tree. The kid that we know is Oscar. That's the kid who was
Yeah.
talking to Daemon and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. And he's got a brother named Kermit. It seems, though, that they have combined, I believe, the characters of Elmo and Kermit Tully into just Oscar. I think we're just getting Oscar. And I believe his grandfather or father was Grover Tully. It's just George having a laugh. It's George having a good time just naming him random things. But I think it's a little too silly for the show, so I think we are probably only going to get Oscar as one of the lads, unfortunately.
But then we should also get Bloody Ben Blackwood.
Yeah. And we may have already gotten him in that Battle of the Burning Mill very brief sequence in season 2. Some people were saying that was Ben Blackwood, but I don't know if that's been outright confirmed or not, if that was supposed to be him or not.
I was thinking it was the kid that stabbed the other kid when Rhaenyra was looking, but that was when she was 14. That would have been 7 or 8 years ago. I guess he could still be a lad. He could be like 17 or 18 now, maybe. That was not Ben. Okay.
Okay.
Not Ben. Theory rejected.
That's good to know. Good.
Why wouldn't that have been Ben? That they should have set up. I guess maybe they didn't want to get the actor for season 1 and then bring him back 2 seasons later or something.
Yeah, I just saw a lot of people saying it was Ben, but like I said, it wasn't confirmed, so I was like, I don't know if that's him or not.
So the stabbing kid is the one that Daemon beheads, and that's a character they invented for the show. What's his name?
Mm-hmm.
Something else, Blackwood.
Because he was a yeah. Because we had the Bracken versus Blackwood kind of.
He was some sort of Blackwood regent on behalf of Bloody Ben until he got killed, Willem. And so now the Blackwood in charge is a kid. He's a teenager or something. He's one of the lads. And then there's also the bastard of Raventree, Red Rob Rivers, who is the archer, and he has a big part to play at the fish feed.
Yes. Someone said the names Kermit and Grover are pre-existing human names and not just Muppets. Yes, but when you have it combined then with Elmo and Oscar, like, come on, guys. This has to be a Muppets, like a Sesame Street reference.
There's an Elmo, too.
Yeah, there's an Elmo as well. So I definitely think it's George having a bit of a laugh.
Why are the Tullys Muppets, though? What is he saying there? I don't know.
I think he's just being silly a little bit, I think he's just...
There might be licensing names with the Sesame Street. Probably not. They are just regular first names. As long as they're not doing Muppet things, then it's probably okay.
Yeah. And then, Ben Blackwood. And with that also, Black Allie Blackwood, who is, I believe,
Tully.
sister.
Yes. Oh, of course. There is a Sesame Street person named Tully.
Oh, is there? Okay.
Yes. Solved.
See,
after many years. Thank you. Is that one of the humans on Sesame Street? We're looking this up. This has such... Oh, this is so nice to figure this out. No. Tully is a... Oh, Telly. Telly monster.
Oh, is that the elephant? Is that what I'm
kind of a purple magenta looking thing? Okay. Well, I think that's why they're in the house Tully. That's close enough. Yeah, that still tracks.
Yeah.
The purple guy who loves television. Right. Okay.
Yeah. With Ben Blackwood and Allie Blackwood, I think we should have gotten introduced to them in season 2, but we didn't. And so it makes me think they're saving them for this kind of Riverlands battle we're getting. And we've gotten a picture of it, of Daemon and Oscar just looking absolutely shocked and harrowed at all the bloodshed. Remind me again, which battle is that?
So there's Red Fork, and then there is the fish feed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is this? Do we think this is fish feed that picture was from?
Yes, probably. And well, there's also ones of Kristen, which would be Butcher's Ball. So I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but if the one with Daemon and the Riverlanders, that would be either Red Fork or Fish Feed, which are in close sequence to each other. Basically, the Lannisters' host is coming from the Westerlands. They have to cross the Red Fork, and then they're going straight to Harrenhal. They run into the armies on the way there. And some of the losers from the Red Fork, some of the Riverlanders that lost at Red Fork, circle back and take place in the fish feed. And this is actually a great place. Guys, I will give you, we got a sneak preview of next week's video, or this week's video. It's going to be a preview of all the battles to come on season 3. And I am happy to say that me and my video editor, Camilo, of Star Wars fandom fame, we have worked hard to make this, we are upping the war documentary component of our channel. And so let me go ahead and bring this up. Oh, I know where it is. Let's see here. Choose phone. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I told him, take all the time you need. I want little rectangle armies. And we've got them. And so here we go. This is the fish feed. Then the fish feed happens. And so basically that army of Westermen ran smack into the Winter Wolves on the way down from the north. And this is on the western shores of the God's Eye, pretty close to Harrenhal. And those Winter Wolves, by the way, they had picked up a bunch of knights and soldiers from the twins, and they've got Lord Forrest Frey with them. And they've also got rivermen such as Red Rob Rivers, a bastard from Raventree, and an expert archer who brought 300 archers with him. That's important because the Westermen are about to be ambushed and surrounded, and Red Rob and his men manage to shoot down every single raven that they send off asking for help. So Pate of Longleaf, again, Sir Pate the Lion Slayer, as well as some other surviving river lords from the Battle of the Red Fork, they regroup and they help to hem in and sort of trap the Westerman army from the south. Then the next day, Lord Ben Blackwood, aka Bloody Ben, and Rhaenyra's other river lords from Harrenhal arrive. So now the Westermen are really trapped. And again, the ravens have all been shot down. And so the day after these other river lords arrive, the battle begins. And it's a slaughter. It's a fish feed, as the Westermen are essentially driven back into the lake and killed in what turns out to be the bloodiest day of the war. And so if we're looking for 2 battles to be combined, it could be that the Battle of the Red Fork and the fish feed will be combined. We'll just have to see. And after this, House Lannister is left in such shambles that Dalton Greyjoy, the Red Kraken, begins raiding all along the coast of the Westerlands, and he keeps that up for years. And we're back.
Okay, hearing that, now I'm just thinking about the idea of the Rhoynar having to do blood sacrifices to the Mother Rhoyne to do some of their powers, and then this idea of during the fish feed of just pushing all, just sacrificing and putting all these people in the lake of the God's Eye. We're just gonna, hopefully that has no repercussions. Hopefully that has nothing to do with anything.
Some Blackwoods showed up and made sure that a bunch of blood was fed to the lake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we get mentions of, Black Alley using weirwood arrows. I think they know what's going on. I think, the Blackwoods always have something going on, something magical, something spooky, which is why they're such cool characters and why I really hope we get to see them. I mean, it seems like Black Alley has been cast as Annie Shapiro, if the internet is a reliable source. So I do think we will be seeing her this season, which could be really cool and really fun.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, weirwood archers from Raventree, if we don't get that, then is this even Ice and Fire? Why wouldn't you do that? And it does kind of complement nicely with the whole playing up of the God's Eye and the Green Men. The Blackwoods are one of the other houses that readers are kind of, into. There's not a lot of Starks going on in this, so it's why not? It just makes too much sense to bring us these Blackwood characters and play them up, and, because it also ties back into Bloodraven and magnifies his importance. And they've friggin' showed us Bloodraven in House of the Dragon when they didn't even need to. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
So we are getting Blackwood, mentions and teases. So I feel like we have to see these characters this season. And then as well with Sabitha Frey, they've aged her up quite a bit. In Fire and Blood, she's said to be younger. She's said to have maybe a relationship with Allie Blackwood. I don't think they're going to do that.
Heavily implied. They shared a tent together. Yeah, we know what's up.
I think that's what was going on. I was rocking with it. I think with aging her up, they're not going to do it in the show, which to me I think is a coward's move. Give me the age gap lesbians. I'm here for it. We got age gap regular straight relationships, whatever you want to call it, between Daemon and Rhaenyra doesn't seem as much of an age gap because they just kept Matt Smith, but give me the sapphic warrior women. I want to see it. I think that'll be a fun lens, why not? But I don't think we're going to get that. I would like to see her, however, lead some battles like she does in the book. I want to see her hide in a privy from Vhagar before going and taking Harrenhal. I think that could be comedic and fun. I want to see battle warrior Olenna, basically. I think that would be really cool. And I'm missing like a cool older battle woman since we don't have Rhaenys anymore. So
you've made a good case. I can't argue with any of that. And here's the quote about Sabitha Frey. Sharp-featured, sharp-tongued Harridan of House Viprin, who married into House Frey, who would sooner ride than dance, wore mail instead of silk, and was fond of killing men and kissing women. So says Mushroom. And someone in the chat was like, let women have hobbies. Minerva Nix. Yeah.
Honestly. And then, because her husband, too, is supposed to, I believe, die in the battle of the fish feed battle, I believe. And so
a red fork, or maybe it is a fish feed. Maybe it is a fish feed. I think you're right. Yeah.
It should be in one of the battles this season. But with that, I would love to see a little bit of characterization from them, even if it's just a scene of being like, hey, husband, who I get along with and like, you're totally not a red shirt. And then we get mentionings later after the war that she holds these widows' balls, at the Twins to marry off, widows of the war to Starks and stuff. I just think she's a cool character that they would be remiss to not play up and make the kind of, I think they could do a lot of fun stuff there, make her almost, like I said, an Olenna style character.
Yeah, totally. She seizes Harrenhal. I mean, after Aemond leaves with Vhagar, it's only a couple of days, and she moves in and seizes Harrenhal. Then Aemond comes back with Vhagar, and as you say, she hid in the privy, which is smart. I mean, hide anywhere you can. Don't have any pride about that. It's Vhagar right there. So, yeah, it would be a major fumble if they didn't give us some version of this character. But yeah, hard to say. If there's somebody in the chat that can look up and see and can confirm that the Frey woman that we saw at the Twins was supposed to be Sabitha. It should be, like, that's who's Lord of the Twins at this point. It's did I say Forest Frey?
Mm-hmm, Forest Frey is her husband. I have it written here that he's slain at the battle by the lakeshore.
Yeah. She doesn't have to actually fight like Brienne. She could just be there, like, battle-minded and commanding and taking control or whatever.
Yeah, because, like, historically, there were women, shield maidens, ladies that just saw off the army. They would show up, give a really good speech in their armor, send the people off. So I don't necessarily need her swinging around a sword or an axe, but I think we could give some characterization to her, leading in some way that could be fun.
Oh, Mike Scotland, you're so right about this. Hiding in the privy from Vhagar is a Jurassic Park reference. Yes, it is.
That gotta be wonderful. Yeah.
That is wonderful. That's because great. That's the scene too. The stomping of the foot, like, that's the scene. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah. That's awesome. We've definitely found a lot of alien xenomorph stuff in there. So yeah, we have to think about movies that were popular by 1994, essentially. When did Jurassic Park come out? Right around then.
Yeah, I would like to see a direct recreation of that scene as a reference. Just Vhagar stomping around and her hiding. I think that would be actually really fun. Because why not? We're doing all kinds of stuff in this show. We're making up scenes. We're making up conversations between characters that didn't happen. Give us the Jurassic Park scene. Why not?
I'd take Sabitha Frey, even in her advanced age, in a one-on-one fight against that lawyer or whatever. He ain't got nothing. Yeah. 1993 was Jurassic Park. That's cool. So that's just George started writing Game of Thrones in like 94, and he put it out in 97, I believe. So, tracks. So yeah, that's just a little taste. The lads, Black Aly, Sabitha Frey. Black Aly is important also because she. The Lord of Raventree is Ben Blackwood, and he's very young. And basically, Black Aly is his regent. Like, not officially, but like that's who he relies on for advice and guidance. So it's pretty much the two of them steering House Blackwood. So yeah, got to get some Black Aly. At least give me some Sabitha, Black Aly, wink and a nod, so we can fill in the blanks or something. But
yeah, and with this season, they've they've claimed it's going to be like nothing but battles. So I'm like, so yeah, we should have the time hopefully to get them in there at some point. With that in mind too, I was going to ask you, do we know specifically which battles we are going to have and when we're going to end? Are we ending with the first Tumbleton?
Well, no, we don't know any of that. My speculation is that we'll end with first Tumbleton because it seems like a great place to end the season.
That's what I was thinking.
There would be 6 battles there, and that's if you don't count the sack of Brittabridge as a battle, because it's really just a sack that's sort of adjoining to Tumbleton 1. But even still, they're going to combine at least 2 battles into one or eliminate one. And so people say either the Battle of the Mander could be cut or combined with Tumbleton, or it could be Red Fork combined with the Fish Feed, or Red Fork just basically chopped out. And so the Westerman's army, they just march right to the lake, and then that's where they fight. So
yeah, because I had written down potential things. Obviously, we know we're getting the Gullet. That's going to be the first episode. And then I have Battle of the Honeywine, Red Fork, Lakeshore, the kind of...
Oh, I said Mander. I meant Honeywine.
Mander.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's called the Battle of the Honeywine, and then there's Tumbleton 1 and then Tumbleton 2. Those are the 3 battles on that leg, from Old Town to King's Landing. So yeah, the one I think I would cut Red Fork, because the Battle of the Mander is interesting. That's where Daeron establishes himself, and then that they roll on with him, and then they get to Tumbleton. So like, it kind of makes sense to do those 2. Red Fork is just an extra battle, really. Like, it doesn't need to be there. Pate of Longleaf, we may or may not get Pate the Lion Slayer, but he could easily be at the Fish Feed slaying Jason Lannister there. So
yeah, I think there is opportunity to combine some of these battles, because I think you kind of have to, because as much as we all want it to be just battle, 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 you do need some other moments of storytelling and moments to breathe. And so I can't imagine they're going to adapt every single battle. I just don't think that's possible.
Yeah, it's 5 is a lot in 8 episodes. It's gonna, really the plan was the Gullet is going to be one of the biggest battles, and they were going to have that at the end of last season. So it's going to be condensed because of that cut from last year. There was a question earlier in the stream. Do I think people will come back to the show? I don't know that anybody really left the show. I think people just watched it and complained. That will continue. People will continue watching and complaining. I do think this season will be looked at as better than last season, probably, just because the dragon battles are very in their wheelhouse. Like, Rook's Rest was fantastic. It forces them to spend a lot of effort getting all the people out there on the field, and like, by the time you're done with that, it's going to look cool. So these battles are going to be cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, my hot take is that I think season 2 would have been less hated if they didn't cut those last 2 episodes. I don't even know if that's a hot take or if that's just widely accepted at this point. I think if we had ended on that big battle moment, because I think that's kind of what people had wanted. So to me, I don't even really blame the writers for that. I mean, obviously there was a strike going on. I think that's more of a HBO Zaslav issue. So. Did
you tell me that your parents were watching and thought that it was over at the end of season 2?
Yeah, my in-laws, they thought that was it, because it's been so long. They were like, "Oh yeah, that one ended. Didn't they're doing another one?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, it didn't end there. I think they just thought it stopped there."
Yeah, Rhaenyra farmed her aura, and then and she wins. She was tougher.
Yeah,
she won.
It's the idea of like Game of Thrones ends with season 6 of Dany just crossing the sea with all her ships. They're like, and that's where it ends. I think they kind of thought, they're like, oh, the dragon family's gonna keep fighting forever. It's more battles are gonna happen. It's just gonna continue on in a cycle. I think they thought that's just where it ended. And so I'm having to convince all of them, no, it is continuing. Please watch it.
Like, no, they're actually going to exterminate all of each other's dragons in like a year. So, just about, almost all. Shout out to Silverwing out there on Red Lake, living her best life. So I do think this season will be good. I think that George castigating Ryan so publicly almost makes people want to watch it more. Like, even the people that are ready to hate on it, it's like, we got to see what kind of mess Ryan Condal's made of the story. So
it turns the pressure up for sure. So I'm curious to see what they've cooked up.
Yeah, it'll be very high viewership, and people will be talking about it. It'll be the same as last year, probably, in that sense, or 2 years ago or whatever. So I'm looking forward to it for sure. And real quickly, what characters are we looking forward to? You already kind of answered this with the characters we just talked about. I mentioned the Green Men, obviously. The Hugh the Hammer thing, in all seriousness, like, this is one of the most interesting changes they have made. He's getting some of that interesting class struggle from Nettles' plot transferred over, like we said. And then he's got a family, he's got a wife, his daughter died in King's Landing earlier. So there's just a lot more going on with this character. So we don't know how that's going to work, or really even if he'll do the same thing that the book character does at all. It's pretty, we know Vermithor is not going to make it to the other side of the war. But beyond that, hard to say. There's that cool prophecy about when the hammer falls on the dragon, a new king will be crowned, that seems to apply to Robert, but Hugh thought it meant him.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot they could do there that is fun and interesting and different. And I like that they are taking a bit of a different route because, yeah, like you said, they're both, Hugh and Ulf are just kind of a bit villainous, a bit self-centered, a bit out for themselves. And I think it is a more interesting change to differentiate them as characters. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that.
So he's high on the list. I think Emma Darcy is a sensational actor, so I'm always happy to see Emma get more material to work with. I kind of here for the Kristen Cole, like, Sad Poets Society. I'm into that. I think the PTSD of it is realistic. Cole has a lot of baggage that he's dragging around, so people look at him for different reasons and think about different things when they see him. But he is expressing a very important thing that we'll probably see more people express, which is like, what are we even doing trying to fight each other with sticks and swords when we have these dragons that could just wipe people out like that?
Yeah. I really enjoyed Aegon's character last season. They did kind of a soft retconning of his character from his season 1 kind of persona. And from even just a little bit that we've seen in this trailer of him kind of out in the wilds in his little paisley cloak searching for Sunfire, I'm curious to see what they do with that. I'm like, I feel like Tom Glencarny is such a good actor. Everyone in this show is just phenomenal. So that's never been an issue. So I'm excited to see what they do with him.
Well, this calls for a sharing. A sharing of a picture of the time when I met Tom Glencarny and took a picture with him, and I think I was wearing this jacket. I totally was.
I took a picture with him too. I was Melisandre, so.
I was myself. But he was very cool, and he had a styling, furry sweater thing with a necktie. I mean, I don't know how people come up with these looks, but yeah, he was super cool. And he was very excited that people were into his character. Myself and a couple other people at the table meeting him were giving him flowers. We were like, hey, this is so much more interesting than really what's in the books that you've brought out. And so he was definitely appreciating that. It's sad to see that so many of the actors are getting harassed online and people are having to deactivate their Instagram accounts. I don't know what's wrong with people these days. Obviously, not the kind of people we have in our chat that do stuff like that. But
poor Olivia Cook, I love her Instagram. I think she's just such a fun, cool girl. She seems really fun, really lighthearted, and I saw she had to deactivate her Instagram the other day. People are suspecting because of a lot of online harshness she's been getting, and to that I say, these actors don't have control over the writing, and they're not going to publicly lambast the writers. This is their job. They kind of have to hype up and go with what is happening, So even if you disagree with the characterization, maybe they do privately, maybe they actually are happy with the writing, who knows? But it's not really for people to then go online and bully them. That's just crazy.
Sean is jealous that I'm hanging with Tom Glencarny like that. Sorry, don't know what to say. He was at the con.
We were supposed to get a photo with him, and the lines at the con we went to were so long we missed it. And so he was kind enough to take a picture with us at the autograph signing booth. And he was super nice. He was super cool. This is going to make me sound like a real creep, but he smelled really good. He had really nice cologne on. So he was a wonderful person. And he also signed an autograph for us for free. So he's just a cool guy.
There you go.
Mhm.
There you go. I have oh, here's my Viserys one too. This is just show and tell now. There you go. You got this?
That's wonderful. I would love to meet Patty. He seems really cool.
He is beyond cool. He's totally a rock star. He was just like everywhere he went around the con, there was this halo of people smiling. Like he really knew how to bring the energy. So there you go. That's what I got, folks. That's what I got. Oh, and I got, well, you've seen the one with me and the Balerian skull. Everyone's got that. That's, you know.
Yeah, that's a fun one.
Why is Arwen on the stream? That's the green. That is Witch Queen Shara of the God's Eye. I'll have you know. Who?
I'm not. I wrote down Shara as well. Shara of the Riverlands.
Oh, that's
So
a different Witch Queen.
different witch queen. We have a lot of witch queens and witchy women associated with water because we also got like the Upcliffs. We got Ursula Upcliff. We got Arwen Upcliff. So we do have a lot of and I feel like there's the different. We can get into the water magic thing later at any time.
It's
I'm
sort of
very
just
interested
seeping
in it. It's
into
just
our
it keeps
conversation. This is very good. It's
flooding
synergistically.
in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, with that, there are multiple woods witch, kind of witchy women. There's obviously Alice Rivers, who is said to scry in storm clouds and water puddles. There's, Shara, who is the witch queen of the Riverlands, and that's, clearly a reference to the Lonely Songs of Lauren Dor, which is a George, would you call it a little novella? It's a
It's
small
like a
little story.
novella-let. It's so short.
Yeah, but Shara is this character who kind of moves between worlds, between
She's a comic
dimensions.
girl. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's interesting that we then get this name repurposed for a witch queen in the Riverlands associated with water, and we got a lot of weirwood trees in the Riverlands and things. And then yeah, we have House Upcliff, which seems to be a little bit more Squisher Merling adjacent, if you ask me. That's not quite Old Gods weirwoody water magic, but more like oceany, creepy magic. You have Ursula Upcliff, who's probably a reference to Ursula from The Little Mermaid, but also Ursula K. Le Guin. She's from this house that has, this cool, like, water cresting sigil. She, isn't, I think she's near the Vale of Arryn, kind of near the fingers, right? Is that where Witch
Yes.
Isle is
Yes.
from?
Yes. There is, yeah, Ursula Upcliff. She's killed in the Battle of Seven Stars. But then there's also Clarence Crabb, who had a Woods Witch as his wife, and she was an Ursula too, wasn't she? Or am I getting that confused?
Ooh, that is a good question. Let me look. Let me just pull up my Song of Ice and Fire search really quick.
Clarence Crabb. Let's see here. Is it said?
I don't see. Let's see.
I'm gonna just search Ursula here.
Yeah, I was gonna search Ursula.
Ursula Upcliff.
And Ursula Upcliff claimed to be the bride of the Merling King. And then from there we can kind of get into there's so many different water deities, water associated deities. Um,
Well, I think what
between
that
the
means is that if she's fornicated with the deep ones, that's the
yeah,
Merlin King, and that's how you get water magic powers. So this checks out.
yeah, for sure. And with that, yeah, we have so many different um, water kind of deities and things. And then too, yeah, her daughter is Arwen Upcliff, which is probably a reference to Lord of the Rings. But she marries Alistair Arryn. Um, and Alistair means, like leader of men. It feels like a bit of an Aragorn Arwen reference of like the leader of men marries this kind of witchy, mystical woman named Arwen.
Well,
But I think
Aleister
also you
Crowley
could.
too is pure
I was
witchcraft.
gonna just say
Okay,
Alistair
sorry.
Crowley. No, you're good because but that's it's witchy, and we're getting all these witchy things associated with water. It's just interesting because you focus on the ice and fire of it all, and I think water magic, it's this like undercurrent that's there. It kind of connects things, but it's not as prevalent. But once you start piecing the things together, you're like, this is interesting, kind of fun to talk about.
So Clarence Crabb just has a wood witch as a wife. She kissed the heads and brought him back to life, and they live at the Whispers. So I guess I
Okay.
transformed her into a sea witch, but she's not named Ursula. That's Ursula
Okay.
Upcliffe. So water magic, okay. Meta thoughts is that it exists. All the magic in ice and fire flows through the elements. We've seen that. As if you count blood as an element, then it's literally nothing but elemental magic. Humans can do astral projection with their spirit, but the magic itself is usually powered by blood, and it's usually using some sort of nature element as a medium. That's just the way he portrays it. So if there's fire magic and ice magic, there should be water magic. I don't think ice and water magic are the same. They're the same chemically and from a, they're different substances in terms of how humans interact with them. So I think they are different. There also is shadow magic. There is aeromancy. We haven't really, well, maybe Euron burning people to create the winds. That I guess would be aeromancy. I think the Valyrians used aeromancy for fused stone, because how else are you going to shape molten stone into these fanciful shapes and then freeze it into place? Like, you need to be able to move the molten stone, and it seems like gusts of air would be the way to do that.
I have it written down that Daenerys does mention aeromancers and I believe storm singers as types of magic in regards to like fixing Valyria, like even like the storm singers and I believe like the aeromancers, like no one could put Valyria back together. But it shows us that aeromancy is a mentioned thing, and I think aeromancy is mentioned somewhere else, kind of further in Essos.
Yeah,
As a
it's thrown around a few
subset of
times. It's
magic.
definitely out
Yeah.
there. And the bottom line is that the Rhoynish water wizards conjuring giant water spouts against the Valyrians is kind of a matter of historical record. I'm not a fan of looking at stuff in Ice and Fire and just throwing it out the window unless we're being led to believe that something could be a false narrative. Like, hundreds and thousands of people participated in these wars, which are witnessed by lots of survivors. So, like, people think that the Rhoynar were using water spouts against the dragons because they were, and it was witnessed by thousands and thousands of people. So I think it's pretty like definitive that we're supposed to believe that yes, there is water magic, and the first thing you can do with any of these elements is just manipulate the element in a raw fashion. Mel can conjure fire, she can burn things with it, she can see things in the fire, she's working with the raw element. So the first thing you could do as a water wizard would be to conjure water spouts. And the big clue about this is that there's a house Merlin in the Iron Islands. Merlin is in the magician, and their sigil is two twining water spouts. So it's like the Merlin of the water can raise water spouts, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean even with that too, if we think about like archaic rituals that are still used to this day in the world, like using ravens to send messages when we know that previously the ravens actually could speak because they were being warged. We have in the Iron Islands them doing these rituals where they drown someone and bring them back. But we do have mentionings of, Iron Islanders. I believe there was like a ruler of the Iron Islands that practiced necromancy in a way. And so I wouldn't be surprised if this Iron Island ritual is kind of a follow through on a more ancient practice of resurrecting drowned spirits of the dead, of resurrecting people who have drowned at sea. And so, we have
Dagon
that.
Drum, the necromancer, is who you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah. And with that too, with the Royne, we get mentionings of, the princes having special magical powers. So that's kind of a follow through on like magical genetics and magical bloodlines, giving you water magic abilities. We get told that this water magic, these walls were able to protect the people. It seems like it's too much of a thing for it to be false. I mean, even Nymeria was called a witch queen, not that she was specifically using magic, but it said that she had, water magic users at her disposal that helps, create these oases and bring rivers to Dorne. And we're maybe going to get a Nymeria show. So I think there's, maybe a bit of a possibility of exploring some of this Rhoynar history, this water magic against the Valyrians.
Thanks for bringing up the Dorne part. I had forgotten about that. That yes, the Rhoynish water wizards, they were able to make the desert bloom, presumably through interacting with the water table. maybe just understanding hydrology better on like this instinctual level, so they know where to make a couple of dams and stuff like that. I mean,
They just
beaver
have
dams
those
can
like
really
those dowsing rods. They're just walking around with those water sticks, and everyone's like, "It's magic." Yeah.
totally. So that's more evidence that for sure water magic is a thing. And so then it's like people are just saying, yeah, why didn't we just say water bending? I'm like, they can make the water move around in the air with their hands. Yeah, water bending, yes.
Basically, yeah. Water bending. And to add to that too, it's said to this day that the orphans of the green blood are wonderful healers. They're very gifted at healing. And so I think that maybe
Body's mostly water, that checks out, sure.
They're drawing from the river that they still live on, and they're calling on that kind of ancestral water magic to do so. However, this maybe did not still help Quentin, but there's that.
So sometimes I feel like people get the wrong message from my videos. There's a comment in the chat. I need Jon to kill Dany and crack the moon so bad. No, it's not the point. See, last time we stabbed a woman and broke the moon, it was bad. It brought on the long night. And so that's what we don't want to do again. I'm not even here for a gender flip of it. It's not the way.
Yeah, we've had multiple cycles now of doing it the wrong way. The long night's getting worse. Maybe we got to do it differently this time. Maybe we got to not do the thing that causes the long night.
One thing I do like about the Nissa Nissa legend is, like, if you read Azor as a bad guy, he's killing someone else to take magic power. He's breaking the moon, which I think causes the long night. He's the Bloodstone Emperor. Nissa Nissa is showing us the heroic principle, because according to the forward-facing reading of the story, she is willing to sacrifice her life for the greater good. And that's what we see the heroes in the story doing. And so basically I'm saying Euron, he's more like Azor Ahai. Let me kill you and use your blood magic to make me a powerful wizard. Jon and Dany are actually doing more Nissa Nissa stuff. They're putting themselves in a place, risking their life for the greater good. They're listening to people who are telling them to do that. Jon with Qhorin Halfhand. When Mormont is like, Qhorin is pitching Mormont on his plan. He's like, well, I'd send 5 Rangers of the Frostfangs and 5 Rangers up the Milkwater and figure out what's going on. And Mormont's like, oh, I'm loath to risk more men. And Qhorin's like, we can only but die. That's what we're here to do, is to die in service of the realm, So that's kind of the whole thing. I feel like George is pretty clear about that heroic ideal. And so don't look for our heroes to be murdering each other in order to save the world. If anybody stabs someone else, it's going to be a bad thing, just like it is in real life.
But with that, we can tie that into what you're saying about Euron, of like, I'm going to do this stuff to you so I can become a cool wizard. We can get into the blood magic aspect of the water magic of the Rhaenyra. It seemed like they were needing to do blood sacrifices in the river to make things happen. It seems like Euron is probably trying to do a giant blood sacrifice right now to become a god, summon a kraken, do something. So it ties in that element of water magic being connected also to still some levels of blood magic, which I think is interesting.
And that is on here on our list of water magics to discuss, is the kraken horn, the Celtigar kraken horn. It's interest. Not only is it a horn, which ties into the whole just magic horn talk we've been having. It's one of those things. Well, if we can bind dragons with magic, why not krakens? Or why not others? I'm going to talk about the Horn of Winter in a couple weeks, potentially calling the others to the Fist of the First Men. But yeah, I don't see any reason why we'd be able to bond one magic animal and not another. We were talking online yesterday in our prep where it's like, well, if a dragon horn is made out of a dragon's horn, what is a kraken horn made out of? We both came up with the same answer.
Little beak tooth? Little tooth beak?
Can you glue the two beak halves together and make a little horn?
Maybe. Why not? I think it makes sense. My bigger question is we get this mentioning of the Celtigar kraken horn. By all accounts, House Celtigar is just discounted and is the joke Valyrian house. No one wants to marry them. No one cares about them. They're the crab house.
It's like, oh, Aegon the Conqueror had a Celtigar for his master of coin.
Yeah, but it's like, it's also mentioned that they're filthy rich. They have a crazy amount of riches, but no one wants to marry them. You know, they have a special kraken horn that gets mentioned that feels very random if it never comes up again. I think it would be really funny if Euron is summoning this kraken. It's coming out of the water, and then someone just reverse blows the kraken horn, just sucks in air, and it just goes back down. It's like, we're just, you know, like, what is this kraken horn gonna do? How is it gonna come into play, or do you think it's just priming us for then what Euron is doing in future books?
Probably that. That. But Dirtmaster Flex, great username in the chat, says this would be an oversized Ocarnia. If the beaks put together be kind of like an Ocarnia.
Oh,
Ocarina.
Yeah, like a
Ocarina.
Yeah, like
that's what I meant. I said that Zelda wrong. I read it wrong on the Zelda game, and then I just never read it again. It became Ocarnia of Time in my brain. It's Ocarina. I'm sorry. I know words.
No,
but
you're
yeah.
good. I have words like that as well, where I'm like, this is not how it's pronounced, but this is how I'm gonna pronounce it, because
I've said it wrong too many times to turn back now.
It's when you like have read it, but you've never said it out loud. That's what gets me. You know,
one of those things.
But yeah, so one of those things. So with that, yeah, the kraken horn, it just seems like it's maybe a little bit of foreshadowing for what Euron is doing. I don't think we'll see the Celtigar kraken horn, sadly. Justice for House Celtigar. I think, you know, I mentioned it to you, the idea that I think it's called carcinization, the theory that everything in the ocean eventually evolves into a crab. I think they're playing the long game. They're like, we're gonna get everyone eventually. We just need to get one person to marry us, though. Just one house, please.
So I think I saw that YouTube video and didn't click on it. But I'm familiar with that idea. Yeah, I want to go watch it now. And so I have the quote about the rich Celtigars and their treasures. The Celtigar's castle, and I don't know if it's Celtigar or Celtigar. I've been saying Celtigar because Celts, but rumored to hold fabulous treasures that bear witness to their wealth. Among Lord Adrian Celtigar's property, there are Mirish carpets, which are very expensive, Volantine glass, gold and silver plates, jeweled cups, magnificent hawks, a trained sea eagle, just cuz, an axe of Valyrian steel, that's the other famous thing, chests of rubies, and a horn said to summon krakens from under the sea, and many fine wines. So what I found interesting is that Celtigar, yes, discount budget Valyrian house, but a Valyrian house nonetheless. So if they really did make a kraken horn, perhaps they took the principles of the Valyrian dragonbinder horns and applied them. Oh, we've got lots of crabs in the chat. Look at this.
Yeah, this is great. They're taking over. I told you.
They're
this
dancing.
Is the long game.
It's a big old
that
crab
video
dance.
With the crabs dancing. Da, 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 da. That's how Celtigars. That's their long game. Is we have the kraken horn. We're gonna show up at the last minute in the Winds of Winter and be the house that takes over.
That'd be funny if it doesn't call krakens. It just calls crabs. A whole bunch of crabs.
Yeah. Just Westeros is just overtaken.
No, crab and horn. Watch the salt out of your ears. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need a supercut of the bats dancing upside down, and and some crabs.
Yeah. No.
All right, like and subscribe if you're
Valyrians.
entertained, folks. We're doing our best here. Yeah. So yeah, lots of treasures between him and Corlys. They just sit on the islands and hoard treasures. And in all seriousness, the Velaryons also have this sea connection, of course, because they made a pact with the Merling King when they took over Isle of Driftmark, supposedly. And that's where they got their Driftwood throne, which sounds like it should be on the Iron Islands with the Driftwood crown, but is for some reason on the other side of the sea. And so, yeah, we have two dragon houses that were subsumed into Squisher lore.
Yeah, and we have the potential to explore that if that Corlys Velaryon show ever makes it off the ground, you know? I mean, Corlys Velaryon goes on many interesting voyages. I want to see him in the Thousand Isles with the green-skinned people that are worshipping fish head gods. I don't think we're going to get that, but I would like it. I would like to see that. There's some potential to explore that weird oceany lore there.
They gave Corlys a driftwood throne on the show that makes more sense for him. It's made out of pieces of ships that have washed up. And so we can see it's got some carving. They're basically planks. They're sort of cobbled together. I always imagine the driftwood throne as like trees. You know, driftwood branches and trees and logs and things. So it's going to look a lot more chaotic, like a weirwood throne. which I think is the
Yeah.
intent. But I'm glad we got a driftwood throne on the show. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and I made a video on Instagram and TikTok a while ago talking about the original concept art for the Iron Throne, and it does have a bit of a similar look to what we got for the Driftwood Throne. So I wonder if they kind of repurpose some of that design for that.
There's something in Greek mythology about the cancer crab assisting the Hydra in a sea battle against like some sort of sea monster. I forget the story, but there's a reason why Celtigar the crab is counted as like a little assistant to the Valyrians. It's because the Hydra and the cancer crab, there's something there. I forget what the story is. The cancer crab
Interesting.
fought Hercules, but there's something with the
Because
Hydra.
I know we do have in that, in the Rhoynar religion, the Crab King fighting, the old man of the river. And it's said in one of the legends that the long night was ended when a hero convinced them to put aside their bickering and join together. So I wonder if that hero, versus the Crab King, kind of subduing the Crab King is maybe a bit of a reference to that.
Yeah, so Cancer was a giant crab sent by the goddess Hera to aid the Hydra in its battle against Hercules. Okay, so yeah, that is why Celtigar is little wingman to House Targaryen.
Makes sense.
And I don't know what the Hercules part of it. It was protecting Hera's apples.
Mm.
Yeah, cool. So there you go. That is why. But why? So why do Celtigar and Velaryon both get, like I said, subsumed into watery culture? I think this is just parallelism for Azor Ahai invading the Weirwood Net, which is the Green Sea. That's why Dany the Dragon is in the Dothraki Green Sea on a horse the color of a winter sea. So she's got a seahorse in the Green Sea. She's reborn from the sea. Azor Ahai reborn from the sea. I think that's what it's all about. That's kind of a cryptic level of the storytelling. It's symbol parallelism and stuff, but there's a lot of dragons going into the sea, and I think that's what it's all talking about. Is ultimately the Weirwood Net.
Yeah, and I mean, and like we kind of touched on earlier, there's so much mentioning of underwater city civilization, Valyria being kind of swallowed up into the waters, and being drowned, and so I think it makes sense for some of, we only have a couple Valyrian houses left, and so it makes sense for some of them to be also submerged in that way. That is kind of the legacy of Valyria.
You're right. I didn't even think about the fact that Valeria is destroyed. It sinks under the sea and is destroyed with tidal waves as well as volcanoes. So yeah, it's more the same pattern. And then we've got Ashai. What happened at Ashai? Like it's sitting there halfway in the water too. And the oily stone is tied to both Squishers and Ashai. So yeah, there's
Yeah,
something
halfway
there.
in the water, we have, obviously the fish-headed god statues in the Thousand Isles that are only visible when the tide goes out there in the water. We have parts of Bravos that is sunken in the water. We just get so many mentionings of civilizations that have been consumed by the water. So,
So I think that the Thousand Islands submerged cities are literally Deep One's watery halls. And I believe that there
yes.
are similar watery halls offshore of the Iron Islands. That's what happens in Lovecraft. The Deep Ones have underground cities. They farm you
Yeah.
from the cities. The hybrids, once they turn squishy enough, they swim down to the city and join the Deep One fathers. And that language is all through the Ironborn mythology.
Yeah, and then that makes sense too with what we were talking about earlier with these underground rivers in the cave in the Rainwood, in Bloodraven's cave, these underground river channels, because I think maybe you've touched on this before too. There are underwater rivers, in the ocean, there are like rivers underwater that are a different pressure level that you have specific creatures that can only live in that pressure. They actually don't cross over into the ocean. It's considered its own ecosystem.
Mm.
And so I think it's adding a little bit to that lore we get of ET being built upon levels of itself. It's kind of little hints that it's like the world that we know, the crust of the world, is built upon an older underground world that existed before. And we see the remnants of that with the oily black stone and these places that are submerged under the water of like the history of this world is much older than we think. There are things that have been going on much longer, more long nights and things. So
And there's also some dragon Deep One crossover stuff in the Lovecraft backstory as far as the mythos and the elder gods and stuff. So some of that is influencing George. The main thing I see is that everything that is water related is serving as a symbolic parallel for the Weirwood net. So for example, the Deep Ones, they are pale monsters that come out of the sea and want to take children. We're talking about the others here. They are pale monsters who come out of the Weirwood net and want to take children. So that's very similar. Patchface is like a green man that's been drowned and now has the gift of prophecy. So that's kind of like a mashup there. But it's talking about a green man going in and out of the green sea and being resurrected, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, even his prophecies of under the sea, he keeps talking about this parallel world, basically, which I think is, it's paralleling of, oh, there's a separate, parallel world under the water, but really what it is what we were saying earlier, is like there's a parallel separate world in the Weirwood net. And that's where the others are coming from. I think it's all there to kind of build upon these ideas.
So the most important one there is under the sea, the crows are white as snow. It tells you the others are like transformed Night's Watchmen. They're like two sides of the same coin. And that gets back to the origin of the Watch and the others and stuff. So yeah, definitely a lot of it seems to be talking about that. And Patchface going in and out and being resurrected, that's telling you that you can be resurrected out of the Weirwood net. And that the person that comes out of the Weirwood net is going to look like Patchface, at least in terms of symbolism. I think this applies to Jon a lot. And Jon, in fact, they're talking about who's going to lead the Ranging to Hardhome. And Patchface, right before Jon leads, says, okay, I'll do it. Patchface, I'll do it. I'll lead us into the sea and out again and blah, blah, blah. So Jon is going to be reborn from Ghost, who looks like a Weirwood. But I also think like Bran and Bloodraven are going to be involved in that too. It's not purely going to be a Melisandre fire resurrection. There's also the idea that there might be two stages to it. The others might white his body, and then we got to put that back, undo that, and put his spirit back in there. So there could be multiple stages. At some point, there will be Weirwood magic involved, I think.
Oh, for sure. I think that makes the most sense with what George has been kind of hinting at and playing with Jon Snow and a lot of the Weirwood imagery with him.
It'd be cool if Bloodraven, one of his final acts, was to help raise Jon or guide Bran through the process or something like that. Because Bran was like, oh, my dad's still alive. And then the Child of the Forest is like, no, don't attempt to call him back. That's a very bad thing to do, which means you can do it. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And I touched on this in my Jon's true name being possibly Aemond
which was a great video. I definitely recommend, if you haven't seen that one on Estella's channel, check that one out. Go ahead.
Thank you. I was going to say, Aemond is this demon in Catholic demonology and in a lot of other kind of religions. It stems from older things, from like Egyptian mythology, but it is written in the Lesser Key of Solomon that Aemond is able to employ the use of a magician to interrogate the drowned spirits of the dead. And that is such a hyper specific and weird thing that to me it feels like it is going to be a little bit of a hint of Jon somehow using Melisandre in some way to interrogate Patchface, get information from Patchface, because he is definitely this drowned spirit of the dead. I could see that happening.
And he's giving out information. It's just hard to decode it, but he does have info. And so to get back to the water magic conversation, what we see, just as magic can move through the different elements, you can do a lot of the same stuff with the different elements. For example, we know that fire can resurrect people. We know that ice can resurrect people. And we know that Patchface seems to have drowned for like 3 days. So he seems to have been dead and resurrected. Although unlike Ice and Fire Whites, Patchface keeps growing after he's brought out of the sea, which is weird because Beric doesn't have vital processes and the Cold Whites definitely don't.
Yeah, and it's interesting going back to that thing we were talking about with the Ironborn, of doing this almost pseudo water resurrection ritual that they do that's very important to them in their religion. And the legend of, Dagon Drum, who was an Ironborn raider and a necromancer. It it definitely feels like a bit of a confirmation between that and between Patchface that like water resurrection magic is definitely a thing. It is just interesting to see how is it different from the other forms of resurrection, because with like the fire resurrection stuff, with Lady Stoneheart, possibly with characters like Mel, if you see them as more fire whites, there does seem to be some differences in the kind of being you come back as depending on how you are resurrected.
And I think George is riffing on like just the character of the different elements. Like Beric, he talks about being burned away until nothing is left and he can't remember stuff. And he's there for a short time and then gone like a flame. The Ice Whites, they're frozen. So they are enslaved. Their personalities are not free to move and do things. They're frozen inside their bodies. They last a long time. We don't know. They just seem to lay down under the snow and then just pop up whenever the others need them to do stuff. So like, it kind of makes sense. He's exploring the nature of the different elements and saying, oh, well, that gives you a different sort of resurrection. So maybe since the body is mostly water, maybe water can be used to do more of a classic, resurrection instead of a reanimation. And the other thing that I think about is like, or I guess maybe to back up, let's say, people have long noticed that, okay, on the Iron Islands, they fake drown people. And they say, what is dead can never die, but rises again harder and stronger. And then we have Patchface on the other coast actually doing it. He actually did die and rose again harder and stronger from the waves. Not smarter. Not harder either. He's kind of soft and doughy, but
squishy and strange. He came back weirder and creepier. But
yes, weirder and creepier. They should change the Ironborn. Right.
Yeah.
What is dead can never die, but rises again weirder and creepier. Say it with me.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong. I mean, you look at some of the Iron Islanders, the Farwinds, we're getting weird and creepy. The closer you get to Squisher territory, you don't get stronger and cooler, you get creepier. So
have you seen my Deep Ones Are Real video by chance?
I think it's been a bit, but I think I have.
It's an old one. So what I was putting together in that video was that the Patchface Resurrection could function as a test for Deep One hybrids. And this is why all the people on the Iron Islands, they have this ritual where everybody is drowned and then they bring you back. Basically, the hybrids are going to take to one side or the other. If they are Deep One enough, they will not actually drown. They will pass the test, and then they are Deep One overlords. They can swim down to the watery halls and have communion with their Deep One fathers and all that stuff. But most people probably don't pass the test, and so they get reanimated as thralls, essentially. And so that's essentially what I'm saying Patchface is like, think of the people on the Thousand Islands. They can barely talk. They don't have culture really, except for feeding sailors to the fish gods or whatever. So they could be all patch-faced out essentially, or just descended from people who've been patch-faced. And so no one knows how to be smart or have culture. And if there's something like that going on, where like that's a test that they're applying to people. So this is kind of cargo cult stuff, like rituals that have lost their power or people don't know why they're doing them. But if you put it all together, it sort of makes sense.
Yeah, they're continuing on the tradition and they don't even remember why or where it started, really. It's just a thing that they've done forever, so they're going to continue to do it. So yeah, that's a fun idea. I hope it's right. I also think Euron was patch-faced to a lesser extent. He maybe wasn't dead as long, but he was lost at sea and then washed up on the shore. So he drowned for some amount of time and then was resuscitated. And he had this religious conversion afterwards. And the main thing you notice is that like Patchface only seems more deranged than Euron. One, they make him wear the bells. And two, he's not speaking these utterances inside of a culture that has a framework for that. But Euron, when he says, under the waves, starfish and the deep one, the drowned god will wash the tide over the lands. And people are like, oh yeah, absolutely. What is dead can never die. Because they have this religious framework that makes sense out of his ravings. But I think if you took put Euron in Patchface's shoes, he'd be almost as crazy. Not as crazy, but close. So Do you think maybe that's why the far winds are seen as so strange? They're skin changing these water creatures, and they're spending too much time under the waves in the water. They're
So
turning
that's
into
yes.
Selkies. There's this lore that the far winds are skin changing Selkies, laying with deep ones, laying with Selkies to bring to half formed children, doing a lot of weird stuff. That seems kind of like warging talk, but even still, people consider them weird and strange. Where I'm like, maybe they're just spending it's warging as by way of like squisher lore. It's too watery. It's making them too weird.
So in Grey King Part 13, um, it was something like that. I was talking about. I think the Farwinds are actually remnants of the original people that came from across the sea, and they would have hit the Lonely Light first if they came across the Sunset Sea. They would have been guided there by seabirds and currents and things, and it's 8 days west of the Iron Islands. So they would have hit this little island chain. They would not have known if they were going to find more land or not, potentially. And so I'm guessing that some people wanted to get off the boat. And so maybe some people stayed there. The other people were like, okay, we'll go on, but we can come back here. And, we've got a little base of operations because it's big enough to live on, the Lonely Light. There's animals and plants and things. So some people probably wanted, oh, thank God, there's land here. And so what I'm thinking is that most of the people then went on, established the Iron Islands, the Grey King, Ancient Mariner stuff. But I think the Farwinds are like original stock. They never mixed with the mainlanders much. And so they are showing you the original people that came here. They had skin changing and green seeing magic. And that checks out with Grey King and all his Weirwood clues, the Weirwood boat and all that stuff. So there's a whole theory there that leads you to believe there were Weirwoods in Ashai or somewhere over there. And that it's all connected. So.
I mean, that makes sense. It does feel very clear that George is trying to paint a picture of history repeating itself and these things all being connected slowly over time, over generations, and it has been lost. And we're now in a still pseudo medieval fantasy world, but it's maybe less advanced than it was before, or it's severely lacking in its own historical knowledge. The maesters think, oh, the world's this old, but it seems pretty clear that they're wrong about a lot of those things. So.
Right, and that's why the Farwinds are the ones who believe that there's a land across the Sunset Sea that we can sail to, where everything's going to be super great, because they are more connected to that original migration. So I think that checks out pretty well. And so that would be different potentially than patch face. So the patch face thing is like deep one hybridization. Some people pass the test, some people don't. Instead of just letting the people who fail the test die, we resurrect them as mindless or stupid thralls, whatever you want to say. And so then they do the work. They build pike and stuff and do what they're told.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like we have different, kind of connections and sources with water magic of like, is it connected to, old god type stuff? Is it connected to deep ones type stuff? But it all, in the end, kind of comes to the same thing of what we're talking about. But it is just interesting to see, where it's all just pulling from different places. And I have written down too, there, like I said, there are so many different ocean deities, water deities. We have the Lady of the Waves. We have obviously the Drowned God. We have Mother Royne. We have the Storm God. We have then in Lace, like some more obscure ones. We have, the Moon Pale Maiden, who's worshipped by sailors, is probably a moon watery goddess, something like that. And so it's just interesting that even though water magic is kind of not at the forefront of the story, there is still quite a bit of, water magic going on in the undercurrents when you do start picking it out.
So I think a lot of this is a way for George to, like, setting aside the Weirwood Net parallelism, he just likes the water magic, and it didn't really fit in his story to play a big part in the main story. But he's definitely putting it around the sides just so we know it's there. And it tells us about how magic works in this story, which is that, like, magic just exists and you can tap into it through the different elements. But we're probably all pulling from the same source. And, we talk about the cosmic highway, the fact that Mel and Bran can see each other. Mel and Bloodraven can see each other, even though they're using different kinds of magic to
we
perceive
get that a little
one
bit
another.
in House of the Dragon with Helena seeing Daemon in season 2.
And that's why I didn't have a problem with that, because it's like, oh no, that actually checks out. Yeah.
No, that made sense to me.
It's only one dream realm, so to speak. And Wheel of Time does a really cool thing with that, where they create these separate worlds. There's the Wolf Dream, and then there's the Aes Sedai's, like, forget what they call it, Teleranriad or some weird phrase. It's basically the dream realm where they learn to hone their will and stuff. And it turns out it's the same place. And so when Perrin, the Wolf Master, shows up at the White Tower, he's actually better at manipulating the dream reality than they are, because he's like, oh yeah, the wolves taught me how to do this. I'm way better at it than you are.
Yeah.
Sorry if that's a spoiler for anyone. It's in like book 9, so I mean, I don't know what to say.
I feel like that checks out with this too, though, of like, yeah, at the end of the day, it kind of all goes into, like you were saying before, Weirwood Net magic stuff. You know, it all kind of goes into the same thing of magic coming from similar sources. You could just conjure it in different ways or tap into different elements or elemental beings to do similar things of, you know, like we were saying, like, you know, you can do blood magic with all these different types of things, with fire, with ice, with water magic. You can tap into, you know, resurrection. You can tap into all these different things. It's just different means of doing it.
So it's book 11. Yeah, book 11 spoiler for Wheel of Time. But it's definitely a very cool reveal. That's the one that stuck out to me. Okay, so that pretty much covers the water magic. And let's finish this off with a little bit of Horn of Joramun talk. So the biggest question, well, first of all, there were several questions that lots of people asked, the same question. So these were obviously things I should have addressed in my video, which was already 50 minutes long, and which somebody in my comments already told me kind of seems like I was stretching it out to get that ad dollar money, Lightbringer. Come on, man. So I wish you guys knew my process. I'm always like cutting stuff out. I'm like, this is too long. People aren't going to be interested in this. I need to cut this out.
Sometimes it's important. Sometimes you have to yap, and YouTube is the platform for that. Part of the reason why I'm not very happy being on TikTok anymore is I would get told all the time that I was talking too much. I'm like, these videos are less than 10 minutes long, and y'all are telling me, and I'm speaking as fast as I can, and y'all are telling me that it is too much. So it's a lot to cover. This world is huge. So
yeah, I was just like, I don't know if you just showed up here, but I have a lot to say about this stuff, and I go deep on it, and that's just what we do. So you're saying if I make my video needlessly longer, I get more ad money? Only if people watch it. That's the whole thing. Like, if you're interesting and people watch it, then you'll get ad revenue for it. So anyway, yeah, I'm fine. It's okay. I read, I get all kinds of comments. I've learned not to take them personal. It's fine. I just had to take a shot at that person because it was just like,
I have had to learn I'm no longer reading my comments on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I read them for the first day or so, and then I have them be moderated for me.
In any case, many people did wonder, could the fake Horn of Joramun, the 8-foot long one that I think is a dragon horn, could it in fact be a mammoth tusk? And in one sense, yes, you can make horns out of mammoth tusk. Mammoth tusks can be very big, obviously, and mammoth horns curve more than elephant tusks. They actually do kind of spiral a bit. So you could get a length of it that potentially looked like an oversized bull horn. That all could work. There's a couple problems though. One, Jon can stick his arm into it, and the mammoth tusks they're not that wide around. And the other main issue is the color. Mammoth tusks tend to be tan to brown. They're not all pale white like an elephant tusk. It is still ivory though. It's the same stuff. The Mance's Joramun horn is black, so maybe it's painted, but I think it would look painted if it was painted, because horns are kind of translucent a little bit. You can have a certain texture. It's not mentioned as painted. Nobody paints horns anywhere in the story, so I don't think that's a very logical thing to assume. And also, Joramun is not the name of an elephant. It's the name of a dragon. Or Jormungandr, sorry. Jormungandr is a dragon. Mm-hmm. Clearly being evoked in the mythology. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a dragon horn, but I mean, it's a pretty big clue in that direction. So it could be a mammoth tusk in theory, but I don't think it is because of the color and because of the Jormungandr clue. There's a magic... What would be the point of having a magic elephant or mammoth horn? Like, are we going to bind mammoths or something? Like, what's the point of that? So yeah.
Yeah, we're binding mammoths. We have crab army, we have bat army, we now have mammoth army. That would actually be the one though that is kind of terrifying. That could actually do some damage. But unfortunately, I don't think there's enough mammoths left to do that. You'd get like three. You'd get three mammoths, and you'd be like, okay, the three of us together will head out.
If they called it the Horn of Hannibal, then I'd be with you, because of course the Carthaginian, not Hannibal Lecter, the Carthaginian general Hannibal famously took the elephants over the Alps to attack Rome, he never actually attacked Rome. He just fought a bunch of wars in Italy and beat around the bush and never got to, anyway.
It's the horn Cersei needed.
What's that?
It's the horn Cersei needed. An elephant horn. A mammoth horn.
I'm missing the joke.
Oh, I was just saying because Cersei really wanted elephants, and she never got elephants.
Oh, that's right.
So,
yeah, she did.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I have only watched the show one time. I haven't watched any
right.
of it. So
someone, maybe it's a mammoth horn. Someone's gonna take the Golden Company's elephants with it. That would be a real,
brilliant.
That would be a real, like, out of nowhere left hook. You know.
I bet you could stretch that out into a 45-minute video, get lots of ad revenue, Estella.
Right. Yeah. No, John Connington is not going to burn down with bells. He's going to blow the mammoth horn. He's going to take the elephants away. They're going to go somewhere else. They're going to do something else. They're going to use the elephants to storm King's Landing.
So, yes, if you're just talking logistics, it could be a mammoth horn, but I don't think it really fits the story, essentially.
Yeah. No,
and guys, if I wanted to make cheap content for clicks, I would do what tons of YouTube channels are doing, which is make AI content. You can have AI script. You can have AI read it to the point where you can't guess if it's AI voice or not on the voice. You have to go based on like the sentence structure and stuff. You can use AI to do all the video visuals too. You can use AI to do the entire process. And I don't use AI on any part of the process. So
can I just say, I have been incredibly annoyed because there has been an audio soundbite going around on TikTok for a bit that sounds like Visenya saying, no brown-haired Targaryen will ever sit the Iron Throne. And there are people arguing that she says this in Fire and Blood, and she does not. It is an AI. It is not a real quote. It's an AI clip, and these AI clips are being pushed around, and the people are like, when did Jorah say this? When did this actor say this? When did Varys say this? And like, they never said this in the show. People are using their voices and their likeness to make fake lines and quotes, and I think it's getting into a gray area that's very icky, and I'm not on board with it. So
yeah, it's more than a gray area. Shout out to the real gray area. Yeah, that is icky. And I guess the point is like every creator that's on YouTube at this point that's doing it themselves, which is one of the reasons why I put my face on this thing. Like, if you like their channel, support their channel, because we are being drowned out by a bunch of AI crap. And some of the AI crap is good. Like, it's getting better. We all know it's getting better. So like, you know, AI, it's not really intelligent, but whatever. The technology labeled as AI, like, it's constantly getting better. The first AI generated images and videos were terrible, and now it's getting hard to tell. And I've listened, like, honestly, I've listened to some videos where like I've listened to several videos on their channel. I'm like, oh, this is pretty good information. And then I finally figure out they'll say something like, during the 1970s. And it's like, oh, you mean the 70s? And then it was two different videos where they're the same thing, the 1980s. And I was like, this is a damn AI voice. And I couldn't tell without that.
And I think too, the problem is, I mean, we could just go on a whole AI rant forever. I'll make it quick, but it's stealing from creators. It's stealing from other artists. It's stealing the likeness of actors and their voices. And even on like a smaller level, I know so many cosplayers that have had their photos stolen and ripped for these AI shorts on TikTok.
That's horrible.
Like, oh, it's this character from, you know, the books that obviously they're, you know, instead of using like a fan art and crediting it, they've just taken this person's cosplay photo from their Instagram and are making their video. And I've brought it to attention of people like, hey, this person's using your photo. Like, you know, it's just.
Yeah, it's very easily becomes a theft device. And so the point was just to say, like, if my video is 50 minutes long, it's because I burn with ice and fire lore enthusiasm. It's and not passion. Because I'm trying to make cheap content. Like, yeah.
No, and I think anyone that watches your videos would see that it is thought out and it's passionate information. You're not, like you said, you're not posting content slop or whatever. It's It's such a
Mythology slop.
disingenuous critique. Yeah, mythology slop. It's a
Symbolism slop.
disingenuous critique, is what it is. So I wouldn't pay it any mind.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Yeah. So okay. So probably not a mammoth horn, although that's the best other explanation for it for sure. It's not a damn bullhorn or aurochs horn. We know that. Remember I was remarking on the different spellings of torque. So TORC is the jewelry, and TORQUE is what you want from your engine.
Yeah, it's like and not quite speed, but like a level of power, I feel like.
And in the books, there's a TORQ for Dany's torque, and then later Tormund's torques are TORQUES torques. So they're all wrong in the book. And if you're word searching for torques in a search of Ice and Fire, you have to try a couple different things. Is the point.
It's funny, there are a couple, yeah, like spelling things that I've picked up when I'm researching or doing things where I'm like, this is spelled two different ways throughout the series, this name is spelled wrong here. Yeah, it's the nature of having books in a world this big. You can't catch them all.
I do feel sympathy for George's editors. I mean, you only wait a decade for the book, and then he hands it to you, and the editors are like, when's it coming out? And you're like, I just got to edit this real quick. Hang on. It's like, okay, that looks good, that looks good, that looks good, and it's out. So I think
but then it also goes into, too, is the spelling intentional? I watched your video, but I couldn't remember if you had touched on if you think it is intentionally spelled this way or not.
Intentionally what?
Do you think it is intentionally spelled torque in the way that it is spelled?
Oh, no, I think it's just a mistake, yeah.
Mistake, okay.
I mean, I guess you could get there, like, if the horn is calling a comet, the comet has power, yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just a misspelling. Yeah. Don't get torqued off. Don't get torqued off. Have yourself some myth slop.
Yeah.
It'd be just fine. So that is settled. A lot of people asked, what do the glyphs say on either of the horns that have the glyphs? And could Mokoro be lying about the translation? Yes, Mokoro could be lying about the translation. I think that it'd be more likely he's not just only reading part of it. He's probably lying about what it means or how it works. I think it probably says what he says, fire for blood, blood for fire. I am called Dragonbinder. That all seems logical. I don't know what the first man runes might say on the other one, and I'm not sure that it would be about what it says, but just more like how it works, really. So
yeah, I mean that makes sense, and I think too it could be a lot of things. Like could he be mistranslating the horn? Could he be leaving out parts? Yes, there's always a possibility of that. I think the better question is why and what would that bring to the story if he is. It's like if he's doing it on purpose, if he's not doing it on purpose.
I think that Mokoro, like Melisandre, is probably working off of some combination of an understanding of prophecy and visions of the future and their interpretations of those visions. So he might have seen something. Not having
all the information, not being fully correct, possibly.
He may have seen Viserion doing something, and he may know that, like, we need to get Vic into the dragon. We need to trick him into blowing the horn and stuff him in. That could definitely be part of it. But also, it could just be that the horn is like the One Ring. And it is like the One Ring. It's got golden rings around it, and it's calling to Victarion in the same way that the ring whispers to Bilbo and Frodo. And he's like, I really want to blow that thing, So, I mean...
Which is so funny, because I'm like, you saw it, like, char and burn someone. You saw someone just, like, puking up blood and lungs, and you're like, I'm gonna do it. It's just the worst idea.
It's just a challenge. Really Victarion is very tough. He can sail the Dothraki Sea. Don't tell him that he can't. And he can blow that horn, and he'll be fine. Definition
of built different.
Yeah. He's a little overconfident. He definitely is.
To say the least.
And he maybe he'll think he can blow it because he has the fire hand. So he's like,
I forgot. Yeah, he's got his cool new fire hand. He's got his cool new fire wizard. He's on the up. He's like, I'm freeing people like Daenerys is freeing people because I'm just making them thralls. Like he really thinks he's the main character in this story. And
I have two gods on my side. Who could stop me?
I think unfortunately we will be getting a reckoning with him where it'll be revealed that he's not in fact the main character.
No, he's gonna get stuffed in that dragon. That's what's going to happen. I'm quite sure of that. I feel good about that. Viserys's up there eating corpses because that's what he's going to do. He's going to eat a corpse. He's going to eat people, eat a human spirit. That's the only way that it could help Euron ride a dragon, because Euron isn't a Valyrian. So he needs a blood connection to the dragon. So we've got to create a new dragon bond, essentially, just like the Valyrians did, which I think can be accomplished with the horn. So that video is called How Euron Will Trick Victarion, or Victarion-Viserion Theory, depending on if you're looking at the thumbnail or the text title. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's a thing. But why? Yeah, Mokoro, hard to say what his agenda is. Is he in league with Euron? Do him and Euron have a similar goal just because temporarily? Does he have his own understanding of prophecy that's different from the Red Temple, kind of like Melisandre, or is he best buds with Bonero? Mm-hmm. We'll have to wait and find out. But he did survive 10 days in the ocean, which means that, like Melisandre, he does not need to eat or sleep to live. He is powered by R'hllor.
Yeah.
And I saw that Michael Talks About Stuff made a cool Mokoro video as well, which I watched half of last night and then got distracted. So shout out Michael Talks About Stuff. So he's got the cover of it is really cool. It's this Mokoro artwork I haven't seen, where Mokoro's like reclining on a piece of driftwood, like in his pink robe, like he just got washed up or whatever. It's pretty cool. So
that's fun. Check
that out on Michael Talks About Stuff. And some people noticed, well, we got 3 magic horns. We got 3 heads of the dragon. Could that be a thing? Yes, because I think the symbolism indicates that Dany's going to have Dragonbinder. Jon is the one who has the foreshadowing to blow Tormund's horn, because Tormund gave Jon his torques, and because Jon is the horn that wakes the sleepers, etc., etc. Check out my video. And the 3rd horn is going to Old Town, where it's going to get in the hands of Euron. Now, classically, a lot of people think that Euron is going to be the 3rd head of the dragon. I have graduated onto double 6 heads of the dragon theory, which is basically 3 true heads and 3 false heads, with Tyrion being the real 3rd head of the dragon, meaning the Targaryen 3rd head with Dany and Jon, who will work with Dany and Jon. And the false dragons would be Euron, Aegon, and Stannis. So check out that video if you want that theory. But basically, 2 of the real dragon heads get a horn, and 1 of the fake ones gets a horn. It just makes sense because Euron is such an apocalyptic, literally right out of the pages of Revelation, sort of antichrist figure. So, of course, he should blow a horn. And in Aeron's dream vision of Euron, he is blowing horns. He's summoning dragons and krakens and sphinxes to his command. So it kind of, Euron is like some sort of lord of animals almost. Just all the bad ones, I guess. Yeah.
All the bad ones, and he's planning to just do the most horrendous blood sacrifices to get what he wants. So, it's not really, I mean, it's kind of on topic with him having a dragon horn still. Do you think he still has a dragon egg?
No, I think he traded that to the Faceless Men for the killing. And I think the Faceless Men agenda is a whole different topic. I don't see them the same as a lot of other people. I think they know about the others, and they are concerned with stopping the others because they worship death, and the others animate the dead, and that would be an abomination to them. And they're not anti-dragon, but rather anti-slavery, which used to be the same thing, but now is not, because Dany is anti-slavery and anti-White Walker. So I actually think that Faceless Men might want to help people like Arya and eventually Dany. They could have killed her. She was right under their nose in Braavos. They never snuffed her out. Then she had the baby dragons all over Essos. They could have hunted her down and killed her then. They didn't, because I don't think they want to. So that's a whole...
I like that theory. Yeah, I think that makes sense to me as well. So
cool. Yeah, I want more clues about it to feel strong about it, but if you just sort of follow the train of thought, it's like, well, they seem to be training Arya. They know who she is. They know that she hasn't forgotten who she is, and yet they are advancing her as fast as they can through Faceless Man Academy. And I think that's because they know she's got a role to play killing the others. So that would be surprising in that's like subverting expectations, but in a way that's nicer than you think, right? And I kind of think George likes to do that. Like, I think Quaithe is mostly giving Dany good advice, but she seems so damn creepy that you're convinced that it must be bad advice. But no, she's telling Dany, if you want to end the darkness of the long night and reach the light, you got to go north with your dragons.
Yeah.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
That's what she needs to do.
It makes sense, and it also follows through with the idea of, like, Bran is also being led by a very creepy person that seems to be wanting to do things for the greater good, maybe in a bit of a Machiavellian way, but still, it's like means to an end. Like, I don't think Quaithe is misleading Dany. I think she's just creepy. So
I think part of it, and this is more clear with Bran, is like, I, as the old master magician, I have given everything to the cause, and so are you. And I'm not really going to explain to you exactly what it's going to cost you. I'm just going to tell you that you need to do this. You know, Bloodraven showed Bran the heart of winter. Now you know why you must live. It's the same sort of thing. Like, oh, you've got the dragons. Only you can do this. You have to go north and face the others. Now, they didn't say that's going to leave you as a happy, well-adjusted person on the other side, or that you're even going to live through. They just say, this is what you need to do for the greater good. Yeah. So it is still got a dark edge to it because these are kids and they're teenagers and they can't even necessarily understand what they're getting into, especially with Bran. And yet they have to do it anyway. So it is sad. The same thing with Arya being turned into an assassin. It's cool and stuff, but it's also really friggin' sad and messed up.
It's very sad and very dark. And I think in the show, it wasn't as sad and dark as it needed to be, and I think it gave people the wrong idea. In the book,
for sure,
she is a little girl that is cutting her face and putting faces on and having the nightmare dream memories of these dead people. It's really dark and strange and twisted, and I think it's showing that she's going down a bit of a darker path that I ultimately think she will come out of and won't fully go down, but it is meant to be upsetting.
I think it's a riff on Frodo. Frodo takes the wound from the Morgul blade, and so he can't live in the Shire. Arya is the Morgul blade. She's been turned into a blade. And so she, like Frodo, will not be able to return to a happy life. I thought the show ending for Arya actually made sense. As far as, like, I'm just going to get on a boat and go exploring some other place and put this all behind me. That kind of fits. So it fits the Nymeria foreshadowing, too, because that's what Nymeria did.
I think that makes sense. I think the only thing that didn't make sense to me was the sentiment of the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives, and then by the end, all the Starks are scattered again.
True.
That was the only part of it that didn't click for me. So
the Heart of Winter, if it's a tree, Harshmellow, it's a magic tree, and it wouldn't necessarily be growing. It's going to be some sort of poisoned or frozen dead tree. It could be a shade of the evening tree. It's definitely not going to be a healthy tree. So, yeah. There's a lot of love for you in the chat. I just want to acknowledge that real quick. Thank you, chat. I do appreciate you appreciating the guests. And yes, Estella is great, obviously. And we're happy to have her. So nice to see that.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on. And this is very fun to be talking about these things. So.
Yeah, your 10 minutes is up. Hurry up, Estella. Yeah. 10 minutes. 10 minutes was long on TikTok. Yeah, I am thinking about having my editor edit me and put little clips on TikTok, but I can't have any part of that. Like, I can't.
You know, if I'm being fully honest, I wouldn't even bother with it. I think that app has been very strange lately. They're implementing all these AI features, and I know so many people that are getting kicked out of the creator funds and all these weird things. On a lot of my videos, I'm now getting notifications that I have suspicious view counts, erroneous view counts. They're taking away the 2 cents that I make because that app doesn't even pay well. So I would focus more. I think YouTube still is just the way to go, and I'm seeing more people migrate there anyways. So
yeah, if I do anything on TikTok, it'll really just be to get people to come to YouTube. as opposed to making any money.
Yeah.
But I have heard some of that too. It's very disappointing. Why can't we just have not even nice things, just like average social media websites? It's a thing of the past, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like YouTube is still going strong in supporting creators more than Instagram and TikTok, but that's just how I'm feeling about it right now.
No, you're not wrong. It's there's more of a we still do get lots of little helpful AI suggestions all the time, but for the most part, we can still just kind of do our thing and ignore that. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Oh, and then last idea about the dragon horns and stuff. So I'm talking about this idea, maybe Great Empire of the Dawn, to answer somebody in the chat, Bloodstone Emperor, somebody from there brought a dragon to Westeros. Somehow that dragon died, and somebody else made a horn out of the dragon. It ended up in the north. And the fact that Joramun is connected to Night's King, and that there is this line in the Night's Watch oaths about being the horn that wakes the sleepers, to me implies the magic horns were probably part of the whole original Long Night thing. So, if we've got dragons in the north, potentially, what about Winterfell? Winterfell is just the kind of place where a dragon lord would want to make a camp or a pit stop because it has the hot springs. We know Vermax liked it when Vermax went there. There are all these clues about a dragon sleeping under Winterfell in the folklore and the symbolism and stuff. So I have always wondered if the original sequence of Azor Ahai, last hero in Westeros, like, was there a dragon at Winterfell? It could make a lot of sense, but it's tough because all the dragon stuff that we find at Winterfell, most of it seems to be symbolism talking about Jon. Jon is a sleeping dragon in the crypts. He's a hidden dragon under the snow, all this stuff. And I don't know how much George is going to tell us about the original sequence. But what I would say is that when Dany comes north and she stops at Winterfell with her dragons, that's when we would see the parallelism. So if there's ancient events that mimic that, George will imply that. So that's not even a Winds of Winter thing. It's more like a Dream of Spring thing. So
yeah, for sure.
Fun to think about, though.
Yeah.
He's a crouching dragon and a hidden dragon, Sean says. Sean's very silly. He has lots of quips. We love our Sean and all of our other clever jokesters in the chat. Okay, that about does it for the horns. We've got over all the water magic stuff. There was a couple of HotD questions. See, did somebody asked, where the third HotD season finale will end. I said I think Tumbleton. I'm just guessing. The main reason I think that is because Tumbleton ends with like everyone in King's Landing going, "Oh no, there's no one to stop the Green Army. They're going to roll in and destroy us." And this leads to the chaos in King's Landing, like the Dragon Pit. So I think it's a good leave off because it's like, next season's going to pick up and King's Landing is going to get destroyed. And then we get second Tumbleton and Adam Valarion's heroics, and then it doesn't happen. I think Tumbleton 1 is where it ends.
That makes sense to me, and that's what I was thinking as well, because it's after Rhaenyra takes King's Landing, we would also be getting, obviously, the fall of Harrenhal. Like, it just feels like a good bookend for a season if we're only getting 8 episodes. So
let me ask you this. Do you think Aegon taking Dragonstone will be in this season? Because the way they did that on the show is they didn't show us when it happened. They kept it a secret until Rhaenyra shows up there at the end. Then it's like, ha, Aegon's already here, and he's already taken the castle, and he turns everything on her. And then they give us the backstory, be like, Sunfire and Aegon and blah 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 blah. But now it's different. They're giving Tom scenes to work with. We know he's hoofing it across the Riverlands or where the Crownlands or wherever with Laurie's. It seems like they might show him getting to Dragonstone just to wrap up his arc for the season.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they'll do a bit of a fake out where you think this whole time he's going back to King's Landing, and then turns out, no, he's going to Dragonstone. And that'll be the reveal. That
would ruin the surprise of the Rhaenyra scene the way it happens in the books, but I don't necessarily think they'll try to recreate it.
No, I think things might play out a bit differently. So
Because then what is Aegon doing this year? He's just walking and getting nowhere,
and wearing a really stylish paisley coat.
which matches the throw pillows in Allison's room, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, yeah. But yeah, I feel like it's the same issue with Otto. And is this? I mean, last season they had issues all over with not knowing what to do with characters. Corlys being one of them as well. That's a character that I'm interested to see how they flesh him out this season because I really liked him in season one. They did not give him too much to do in season two, and I think they really need to beef him up as a cool guy if they're gonna do a whole spin off on him, just to drum up excitement for that. So
Yeah, I agree with that. And also I love Alan. I think he's great. I love the actor. He's great online, and I really, hopefully, I just want to see more of this story of how where did they come from, and like in the books we get a couple rumors about Mouse. Is her name Mouse?
I think so, yeah. She's,
Their mother. She
you know.
builds ships on the docks, and so you can
Mhm.
see. Oh, that's why Corlys would have an affair with her. Like it's kind of all makes sense. Um, Yeah, so I'm curious to see how much backstory we get from them. And then, of course, after the Battle of the Gullet, High Tide and Driftmark are savagely sacked. Spice Town. And so all of Corlys's treasures, which they have established and shown us, they showed us the castle. I built it with my own hands. It gets destroyed. So I got to think we got to see all that stuff because that's really going to affect the character. He's going to be standing there in the ruins of his castle, just like, what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't cut that stuff out.
I hope not, but also, man, I just feel he's just losing everything left and right. I feel so sad for this man. So,
Yeah, I think part of his story is, he's somebody that hitches his wagon to somebody in a civil war and gets really dragged through the mud because of it. Now he is also a little bit at fault. At least in the show version, they've given us several scenes with Rainey sort of casting doubt on his judgment, but for the most part, he just hitches his wagon to somebody in a civil war and gets taken for a ride. So,
mhm.
yeah. And Aegon's Conquest movie, which we haven't talked about at all. I mentioned that at the top. We haven't. We'll close with that.
Yeah. I mean, there's not too much to talk about with it, so might be good to close on it.
I'm glad they're doing it as a movie. I said originally it made more sense as a movie event. If it's a season, then they've got to kind of add a bunch of filler for ad revenue and string it out, kind of, or invent backstories and arcs and things like that. I do think the way to make it interesting, which I've heard several people say now, is to put us in the shoes of the people getting conquered as well as the Targaryens and make it so that we're not just rooting for the Targaryens to win and then they win and that's that. Like, where's the conflict going to come from? We should be able to get in the shoes and the headspaces of some of these people being conquered and see like, oh, these aren't all bad people. The Harrenhal drama is pretty interesting because Black Heron is an Ironborn building a castle in the Riverlands and enslaving local people who Aegon is essentially able to win over by defeating Black Heron. And that helps the Targaryens gain legitimacy in the Riverlands. There's Argella Durndon. There's some stuff, but yeah, I think a good movie would probably take care of it, right?
Yeah, I would think a movie just with pacing. I know they were like flirting around for a bit of is it a movie, is it a TV show? And I feel like that those are just two very different mediums, so I'm glad they settled on a movie, I think for what it is. I believe that it's being written by Bo Willimon. Is that correct? He's the writer, he wrote on Andor. I
I
was
think
reading
that sounds
that. Is
right. I
that
know was announced. I don't know my names very well, but the Andor thing rings a bell.
yeah, which did you watch Andor at all?
I loved Andor, yeah.
I was gonna say I thought, Andor is fabulous. I think it's one of the better recent Star Wars like
Oh,
adaptations,
the
properties, whatever
best.
you want to
Yeah.
call it. The best. And that was so much about characters and humanizing characters and relationships, whereas Aegon's Conquest, what we know of it, is kind of just events. So I think if you get a writer like that who's really good at making characters, it could be good to approach it that way of we're gonna humanize these characters and see them rather than just do battle, 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 conquest, conquest, conquest. I think if that is the case and he is still writing on it, I think we're in good hands, and I'm very excited to see what he does.
I'm fully preparing to go see the movie, and the second Rhaenys and Visenya have one crossword with each other, like I'm ready for like a small section of the auditorium to start booing and like walking out or something, and it's like, dude, they didn't really get along in the books either that much. Y'all settle down. Conflict's got to come from somewhere.
I mean, I'm more interested in seeing not even like conflict, but I want to see Visenya, and Aegon, her being like, I can easily cut you. You need to have, defenders. Like not even fully conflict, but just like that butting heads a little bit of,
yeah. No, it's conflict. Visenya has conflict with everyone. Yeah. That's her character. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much Rhaenys will give a crap about whatever Visenya is worked up about, but Visenya is conflict driven.
Yes.
She really comes across that way. So that'll be interesting to see.
And I don't know if this is... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, just the challenge of it is that there's not a ton. Only one side has dragons, and they kind of win all of their battles pretty easily. So the drama doesn't come from whether or not they're going to win. But I think if you think about it kind of like a war movie, like when you make a movie about a war, we all know what happened and who won and stuff, but it's still dramatic because bringing it to the screen and showing it is incredible. So, and on one hand, it's like, don't overthink it. Just show us the story and do it right. And it's going to be like incredible and powerful as a spectacle. But you do have to bring in some amount of character tension, or else it's just people aren't going to get invested in it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there are a lot of different opportunities to do that. Like you're saying with, Heron, between, we can have some conflict between the conquerors. Someone said in the chat, I just don't want it to be the typical melodrama. And that's where I agree. I don't want them to be fighting over Aegon. That'll make me roll my eyes. I don't want,
That wouldn't fit Visenya's character at all. So that's why I don't think they would do that.
I would hope not. I read too, I don't know if this is necessarily true anymore, that they were eyeing a 2027-2028 release, which feels really soon.
That would be soon.
Way too soon. So I don't think that's maybe true anymore. It's just something that I read and was like, that is kind of breakneck pace of y'all need to be doing pre-production and doing this like now. So.
Yeah, the Visenya character writes itself. She's the older sister. Her younger brother is king. Still her younger brother, though. She's not going to be told. You know what I mean? So, that's not like going to be something, it's almost going to tear the family apart. I don't know about that, but
yeah. Well, and
there's
she's got
to
to
be
marry
tension.
him out of duty when it's very clear he wants to be with Rhaenys, really, instead. The dynamic is there. The tension and the issues are pretty plain on the table. So
I see it like Visenya is the adult, and she looks at the other two as the kids. Aegon and Rhaenys, in a certain extent.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different ways you could play it.
So we'll see. But are they going to play it straight, or are they going to give us a Thor Ragnarok and genre flip? Undead Evie says, no, they're not going to do that. I did see the new He-Man trailer is set in modern times, which is confusing a little bit.
Yeah.
For what it's worth.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. I was like, this is interesting. I'm not a big He-Man person, but I do know people who are, so
I was so young when I mostly played with the toys, I think. I did watch a cartoon a little bit, but I was 7. I don't remember. I was more into Transformers, so that's how I've been disappointed by, cheap Hollywood nostalgists through the Transformers franchises.
That's very fair. That is
awful. Not a watchable minute in any of those movies. Just terrible.
I was going to say, the last thing I had written down, though, is that Dexter Ansel Soul showed on Instagram he recently shaved his head again, which gives me hope that maybe they figured out their season 2 filming debacle.
Yeah, they got flooded out from the first location in Ireland, right?
Yeah, I think
was it in Spain or France?
Because they were trying to do the season 2 kind of drought look, and I think they got flooded out, and so they're kind of having to scramble to find a new place. But he did just post the other day that he shaved his head again, which gives me hope that maybe they are still able to film some stuff right now, or maybe they were able to find a secondary location.
Well, they had already done most of it when it got flooded, so they only need to do some stuff. Yeah, I figured they'd solve that problem eventually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So.
you just have to find a similar looking sandy area, rocky,
Yeah.
sandy area, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. But other than that, yeah, it's interesting to see the future of the A Song of Ice and Fire. I don't know what you want to call it, universe, greater world of like we're getting Aegon's Conquest movie. We are maybe getting a Nymeria spinoff, maybe a Corlys spinoff if they can greenlight or figure out what's going on with those. Obviously, we're getting House of the Dragon season 3, and A Night of the Seven Kingdoms season 2. So I think they're kind of maybe holding their breath a bit to see about House of the Dragon and A Night of the Seven Kingdoms before they then do the go ahead with these other spin-off shows. Like,
it seems like I think the movie's the next thing we'll get this movie probably before we get any other shows or anything else new.
Yeah.
And if the movie does well, which I have to think it will,
I hope so.
Then it's going to be huge. It's going to be huge if they do it. So that'll do well, and then that'll probably put more enthusiasm and budgeting behind some of these other ones. I would love to see the Corlys show. The Nymeria show is the one to me. If they want to recreate Game of Thrones magic, the Nymeria character could be a new Daenerys if they do it right. Every bit as powerful and transformative. And the other cool thing about the Rhaenyra thing is that each season is kind of in a different setting. Starts off fighting the Valyrians, very exciting. Then we're fleeing across the ocean, Sothorios, Summer Islands, Dorne, and the unification. So, like, we could keep it moving, kind of like a Star Wars movie, having all these different environments, like each season would be this really different environment, and that would make the show very dynamic and interesting.
Well, and the same goes for the Corlys Velaryon show. We could have each season be almost like a Night of the Seven Kingdoms, where he's sailing to a different place every season, doing a different adventure, encountering a different group of people that have a thing that needs to be solved, but then, maybe connecting that further. I think there's some good opportunities, and I think from what we've seen, sorry, I think there was a siren going by, people really liked the style and pacing of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, so I think if they can, kind of continue to lean in that direction of character building, storytelling, I think that could be really good.
Yeah, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, like more people at the beginning complained it was a little slow paced, but by the time all the setup was paid off with the later episodes, people were just praising it. So,
well, because you really need that, and we were talking about this earlier. It's a thing I miss in House of the Dragon. It's so breakneck, especially in that first season. We don't get those character building moments that then make me sad when some of these characters start dying. And we had that in Game of Thrones. We had like 3 seasons until the Red Wedding. I need build up and time with these characters if I'm gonna care.
The idea that the Daemon, Laena, and Harwin Rhaenyra romances basically got 1 episode, that was brutal. That was brutal.
Yeah, and I really like Dimension 20. I don't know if you watch Dimension 20 or Critical Role, any of those things. They're these kind of longer format Dungeons and Dragons style playthroughs. And in it, you do need those, they talk about, you need those moments of brevity and world building and just sitting in the world and seeing it to then make the other moments impactful. Whereas it seems like with capitalism and with where we're going, everyone's like, no, what if you just do the cool part all the time? Big battle all the time.
Yeah, that's like dabbing all day. Like, I know people that do that, but it's like, bro, what are you doing besides dabbing all day?
Yeah, or it's like I saw the Super Mario Galaxy movie, and I understand it's directed towards kids, but that movie is just bit, just jumping from constant, reference in a way that I was like, children do have some level of attention span. They can follow a certain level of story. We don't need it to just be flash. Like, almost, it reminded me of like a lottery game almost, of just...
That's like when I open up TikTok. It feels like I wandered into a casino and there's 4 slot machines all talking to me at once, and I'm just like, make it stop. This is unpleasant.
Yeah, and so with that, I wouldn't be against having some of those character moments to breathe. I mean, I think a lot of us agreed that some of the better parts of Game of Thrones were those in-room talking scenes. You know, maybe not necessarily
Yeah.
House of the Dragon just looking off wistfully into the distance and not saying anything.
I remember in
because there was a
season
writer's
4.
strike,
Do you remember the season
but
where Sansa's like looking in the mirror? Like, I don't even remember what was going on in that scene, but it was like all the trauma that had been going on. She was like processing it in this scene where she was looking at her face in this blurry mirror. And it was like such a poignant visual moment that it stuck with me all these years, even when a lot of other stuff didn't. And that was like a very quiet moment. So yeah, you're totally right. It's just like a song, you know. I mean, it's cool to listen to stuff that's just like heavy all the way through, but it's a lot more powerful. You got that little quiet section and then it comes back in real heavy. Like, that's cool.
yeah, or like, you know, and even just these talking moments. Like, I think all the time about that conversation they had in that first season of the show between Robert and Cersei, where she said, you know, was there ever a time for us? Was there ever a moment? And he just looks at her and says, no. Does that make you feel better or worse? And she says, it doesn't make me feel anything. And
Yeah,
it's like
that was good.
yeah,
That was
and then
really good. I remember that.
and yeah, and she has then, you know, she talks about Lyanna and how I thought if I'd never mentioned her, I never brought her up, she'd just go away, but she never did. And then, you know, he's like, why are you bringing her up now? And she says, well, what could Lyanna Stark's ghost ever do to us? And then it cuts to Jon. And I'm like, to me, that's good storytelling, good television, good hinting. Just those moments of talking, I think, would be really nice. And it's like, we didn't need that moment between Robert and Cersei. We already knew they had a bad marriage. We already knew they didn't like each other. But it
Right.
just adds a little extra something, you know?
Let the actors act, you know?
Let the actors act. Well, as we were saying, that scene with Daemon and Rhaenyra just talking in a room, throwing stuff, yelling, no, Daemon, this isn't what I wanted. That was some of the best, you know, interaction in the season.
Indeed.
So,
Yeah, I made a whole video about like a 30-minute video. I mean, you know how it is. I pad the things to put more ads in there, but it was a long video, and I did. That scene was some of the best stuff in season 2. Yeah.
yeah. So, I'd like to see more of that.
Well, we'll have to see how much of that we get with this season. I mean, it seems like it's going to be a lot of battles, but you know, you don't need to spend 60 minutes showing people dying. You just need a little bit of that, and then conversations happening in the middle of it. So, lots of PTSD conversations will be happening. Yeah, I'm gonna keep making the ad revenue joke. I like it. Anyway, I do appreciate y'all. I do this for a living, and I enjoy that. I'm very grateful for that. Just on so many levels. I'm grateful to be doing what I'm doing and grateful to be self-employed. So thank you for watching this stuff, and I'm sure Estella feels the same way. We're very grateful for all y'all.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, if it wasn't for viewers, I wouldn't be able to do any of the things that I do. So, you know, it does mean a lot, and it's very helpful. And I love the community too, you know, hearing people's insights. I mean, it's exposed me to theories and ideas and parts of the fandom that I would have never seen otherwise. So
yeah, I would have just looked at this jacket and been like, that's a cool jacket. I can't wear that though. And I wouldn't have bought it. But because I'm a YouTuber, I'm like, I don't need to have a conscience about that kind of thing. I can just get it, wear it. It's silly. It's fun. So thank you. I wear it out all the time. I confess. No, I don't. I'm kidding. I don't. I'm not this flashy usually. So, all right, y'all. Thanks very much. Thank you, Estella, for joining me. And thanks, Tim, in the chat. Hope that train ride was smooth for you there, buddy. See you back soon. Sean, same deal. See you back soon. And like I said, this week's video is the battles to come. All the battles. You saw the rectangles. It's going to be fun. So got that coming. And the week after that will be the big First Man video that I've been working on behind the scenes for several weeks. Hour and 47 minutes of First Man goodness. That's coming too. So there we go. Yeah, Tom Glencarney loved my jacket. That's right, Orange Tabby. I shouldn't put it down. I should be proud of it.
yeah.
He did. He complimented the jacket. He thought it was cool. So, and I was
Well,
like, dude,
yeah.
your jacket. Anyway, see y'all later. This has been an extended goodbye and goodbye.